Through the long winter, the time has ticked away. Months turning to days, days to hours, hours to minutes. Time spent preparing for the greatest challenge in racing. At Daytona International Speedway, the final hours have been frantic, gathering the teams from across the world. Testing and tuning, perfecting the cars, polishing the drivers. Qualifying, organizing, and finally waiting. As the final minutes tick away to the start of the great race, the 24-hour Odyssey. The calendar may say January, but to race fans around the world, it is springtime. Time for the traditional racing season opener, the 24-hour sports car classic, Rolex 24 at Daytona. The cars sit under a warm Florida sunshine, 75 strong to race in 4 classes, manned by a driver corps from 17 countries on 5 continents. Welcome to a truly international event.
It is a field full of the most famous names in road racing. Bell, Haywood, Lyondike, Pappas, Robinson, Sullivan, St. James, and Taylor. Pick your favorite driver and pull up a comfortable chair. The sun is shining on Daytona, and the stars are about to come out.
If the stars aren't enough for you, we've got the cars. How about a Ferrari V12? And then you've got the Ford V8. We've also got the Panos, Batmobile, BMW, Porsche. We've got them all. In the next half hour, we'll take you behind the scenes and show you them.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's start with the headline class, resurrecting a great racing name, Can-Am.
Yeah, Bob, the Can-Am class, of course, open cockpit, purpose-built racing cars. But to me, the biggest thing here is no turbocharging allowed on these production-based motors, Jan.
The open cockpit, of course, keeps you cool at night. The dominant chassis, Riley and Scott, and of course, Ferrari.
A year ago, this Ferrari had a Le Mans body, and that meant 1,000 pounds less downforce. But it was too hard to handle. This year, it has a different body, 1,000 pounds more downforce. But it also has higher torque and more horsepower. But the Ferrari's Achilles heel has been the gearbox. And this car had a gearbox problem this morning. Max Pappas, you had to go to a backup gearbox. The car is fast, but is it reliable in a 24-hour race?
The gearbox we had was ready for a replacement during the race, so I believe that the car, at the moment we stay cool and we check in the first hour.
You had a fabulous race here 2 years ago, but you did not win. You want to win today.
Max Pappas started his career here in 24 Hours of Daytona from pole position. We are again in pole position, but now I have some unfinished business to do.
Ferrari second the last 2 years. Their last win at Daytona in a 24-hour race came in 1967.
Well, the Ferraris may have been the fastest in qualifying, but last year it was this car and one of these guys, James Weaver, who made this car run to the finish, despite the fact that you had engine problems. You were down a cylinder, you were pouring more oil in here than the crew can eat hamburgers, and yet you still won. It's a case of tortoise versus hare.
That's right. In a sprint race, the Ferrari and Ford are very evenly matched. But in the long races, we just have to run a few less revs to be sure of making it to the finish.
As far as pressure, you feel any for the defending champion?
No, not at all. I've driven for the team a long time. They always put a great car on the road. And it's just, most people say, oh, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. When we come to Daytona, we come to compete, be part of the show, and if we get it right, hopefully we'll win.
Yeah, but they want to get it right because they want to defend and they want to win again.
All right, thanks, guys. And here is the way they will line up in the Can-Am class. The fastest cars on the track behind an all-Ferrari front row. Now, this is in class in the right-hand column are where they will start when the entire field of 4 classes lines up on the grid, preparing for the green flag, now less than 30 minutes away. We are on the grid for the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and we expect a great race. Let's take this opportunity to say hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Bob Varsha, along with former Daytona winner Jeremy Dale and ESPN racing analyst Jan Beekes. Everybody's down there on the grid. I think it's the strongest field we've ever seen at this race, Jeremy.
Yes, Bob. It's not the largest field, but I think the quality and the depth in this field is just phenomenal. And, of course, the Ferraris are better prepared than they've ever been.
And, of course, all 3 of those Ferraris are on different tires, so we'll have an additional battle going on there. Remember, there's so much hype right now down on the grid. These guys are trying to calm themselves down. You don't want to hit anything at the start of this race.
And the opening laps will be coming your way just after 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But we have 3 more classes to tell you about. We'll be back to take a look at the fire-breathing production-based GT1 class when we return. High above Daytona International Speedway on an absolutely perfect day for a sports car classic, the Rolex 24, now barely 25 minutes away, and you are on the grid. The best seat in the house today is inside the Bud One airship, aerial ambassador of the King of Beers, and we're glad to have them with us to provide pictures. Our next class is the production-based GT1 category. Silhouette cars, they're called in Europe because they look so much like street cars, but underneath, they are pure, full-on racing machines. Jeremy Dale?
Yes, Bob. You know, we talk about these cars being production-based cars, but I've got to tell you, they are very loosely based production cars, and these are very, very serious race cars.
By FIA regulations, you have to build 25 of these cars to have it officially meet this class, but they're pretty loose on that too. Not 25 of every one of these cars have actually been built.
Well, this is the Panos, and you heard Marty Reed refer to it as the Batmobile because it kind of looks like that. But lately, it's been more like the Riddler. It had a coil bracket problem yesterday on the 5 car, the teammate to the 99. And this morning, the 5 car also had a drive shaft problem. Now, for you NASCAR fans, the engine in this car is provided by Jack Roush. And in 1985, Doc Bundy and Jack Roush in a Ford Mustang combined to win the GT1 class. This car is very fast, but in the last 2 days, you have to question its reliability.
I have no worry whatsoever, Bill. She's going to run 24 hours like a silver streak.
Obviously, it's very quick, and the blistering pace is something you guys are going to try and maintain, or no?
Oh, yeah, we're going for it right from the beginning. The only thing is during the hot part of the day, with the extra lead that's been laid on us, we have to be very careful with the tires. But during the night, we're flying.
And Doc Bundy gets into his car, the 5 car, at 1 a.m. Sunday morning.
Now, right alongside, just 0.2 of a second off the qualifying pace. This is not your father's Porsche 911. This is the GT1 version. And our compatriot Danny Sullivan trades the old sport coat for the driver's suit. This car has some trick things like a sequential gearbox, easy for me to say, but you've had a few gremlins to work out.
Well, we have. Even though it's sequential, we still have to use the clutch. It's the way they designed it. And, you know, it's a new gearbox. They're trying to develop it for the car, so we got to keep our fingers crossed. But it's been working pretty good so far.
Everybody says this is a Panos Porsche Duke out. Is that the way it's going to end up?
It's shaping up to be that way. And, of course, the big thing is their cars are a little bit faster. We're hoping for a little bit more reliability. Of course, 24-hour race, you got to be there at the end. And, of course, it's how much time you don't spend in the pit. You want to make just your traditional pit stops and go. And maybe we'll give even a couple of those Can-Am cars a run at the end of the race.
No pressure, but Bob Varsha says if you don't win, you're not welcome back in the booth.
Well, that's a pretty good deal, maybe, Bob.
Thanks a lot, Val. Good luck, Danny Sullivan and team. It is, in fact, a trick Porsche. GT1, 2, and 3 is where the Porsches dominate. They are not in the Can-Am category this year. Here's how they'll line up. And once again, the right-hand column numbers are where they are on the starting grid. We have battles within battles in this twice-around-the-clock marathon. Every driver has a story to tell. Every car different from the cars they are competing against. It's going to be a great race, and we have plenty of coverage coming your way here on ESPN2. Once the race starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be taking it until 4 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon. And then tomorrow morning, Sunday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, the final 6 hours of the race all the way to the checkered flag with a half hour of interviews and highlights to follow. We'll be back to Daytona. Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway, where we are on the grid for the Sports Car Racing Endurance Classic, the Rolex 24. The field is lined up in pit road, every car a potential winner, every driver a potential champion. After tens of thousands of man-hours lovingly preparing these machines, 24 hours from now, however, it will be a very different story. You want mechanical diversity? Listen to this lineup of engine manufacturers. 29 Porsche engines in the field, 14 Chevrolet, 11 Ford, 4 BMW, 4 Mazda, 3 Ferrari, 3 Oldsmobile, 2 Pontiac, 1 Dodge, 1 Mitsubishi, 1 Nissan, and 1 Jaguar. Let's take a look at the GT2 category, Jeremy Dale.
Yes, Bob. This is now the unit body only, and that's the most significant part of this category. Very closely centered on production-based cars.
It is. You have to build 2,500 of these cars. These are real production cars, the FIA cars, these GT2, exactly how they would run in Europe.
Well, this is the division where the cars clearly are the stars. Porsche has 19 wins in the Rolex 24, and they're looking for number 20 here today. Everyone knows about the Porsche 911. Nick Ham was a 1992 IMSA Street Stock champion and 6 GT2 wins a year ago in 1997. Obviously, a pole-winning effort here, and a car that is proved very successful in these endurance races.
Yeah, it's kind of a given driving a Porsche 911, but we're looking for a good start to the season. We've got a great team behind us, and we've got some new sponsors on board we want to welcome, the Algae Rock Group, Giesa, and Lufthansa, and just hoping for a good race.
What's the key to winning here in your class?
Oh, just being consistent, just not making mistakes, not missing any gear shifts, being calm in the pits, and just being there at the end.
He has an all-star lineup with him. Nick Ham leads Porsche into battle. Here's Marty.
And the American contingent is actually a combination of a Brit and American. The Viper will be driven by a combination of English and American drivers. Matt Turner, one of the Americans, but Chamberlain Engineering from England. They put this car together. It ran as high as 3rd at Le Mans last year. It's run 15 races, but you only qualified 8th in your class. What happened?
Well, I think it just goes to say we're focused on the endurance race this weekend. It's easy to get caught up running for qualifying, but we've done everything in qualifying and endurance trim. We've got some new drivers. We want to get used to the car. So we're ready to go. Like I say, I think we'll be there Sunday when the race is over.
Well, the reason they're focusing so much on the race, guys, because if they win, they get an exemption into Le Mans. That's their number 2 goal. Number 1 is win today.
Thank you, Marty. Of course, Le Mans is the great sister event to the Rolex 24 here at Daytona. Let's look at the GT2 lineup once again. The right column is grid numbers, and as you can see, the GT2 cars further back up the grid. And this is the most lightly subscribed class, so there is a great opportunity there for some cars to move up. And as this race unfolds, don't be surprised to see these slower classes move up into the top 10. Over the last few years, predicting the Rolex 24 at Daytona has been next to impossible. The sun is shining down, the sky is cloudless. It's a beautiful day at Daytona, great weather for racing, and we're getting in closer and closer to the green flag for the Rolex 24. Stay with us. Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway. Now barely 10 minutes from the green flag for the 36th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Now we've introduced 3 of the 4 classes competing. Here's a look at the 4th one, the GT3 category.
Yeah, Bob. Now, this category in past years has really been dominated by the normally aspirated 911 Porsches, but the last couple of years, the BMW M3s have come on very strong, and they are really favored to win this race.
Turbos are allowed in this class, but they are discouraged. There's still a few left.
Well, the BMW won here 1 year ago. It's 70 pounds heavier this year, but it has a stronger tire, a better compound. It also has a 6th gear this year, so it'll have a closer ratio, and that will also enable cars to get off the turns much quicker. Boris said a victory here a year ago for the BMW. You guys are here to repeat today. Can you do it?
I hope so. I mean, a 24-hour race, you need a little bit of luck, but the car is definitely up to it. We got good Yokohama tires. Everything's been running good so far. A little depressed that Ernie Irvin didn't show up. He was supposed to come and co-drive with me, but he kind of chickened out at the last minute. He didn't want me to make fun of him. But he also had another reason. He's home. His lovely wife's going to give birth to a new child soon, so he's probably making her lunch right now and rubbing her toes and putting cotton between them and, you know, taking care of her because she deserves it.
Okay, and Boris said looking for a win here for himself and for Ernie. Here's Marty.
And number 2, about a 1.5 seconds behind that leading BMW, is the 41 Porsche RSR, celebrating their 25th anniversary of the first victory by a Porsche here. And the number 41, Court Wagner behind the wheel. Kelly Collins, you gave it that ride to the 2nd quickest time on the grid in GT3. you've got the tradition on your side, but they seem to have the horsepower.
Well, yeah, they get the horsepower, but reliability standpoint, I mean, I don't want to eat my words, but the Technodyne Scottsdale Porsche here, I mean, it's miraculously prepared, and you know, they have a great history of finishing very well on races like this, and I've stuck with them for the last 3 years now, so that's who I'm, you know, voting on.
Yeah, guys, got to tell you, we're going to get to see some of that ride because they're carrying one of our onboard cameras.
Thank you, Marty. We have plenty of onboard cameras in this field. We'll give you great views of the race as it unfolds in the next 3 hours. Here's a look at the GT3 class lineup. And as you can see, they too will start well back in the field, some 75 cars strong. And this is the busiest class. 30 cars in all will run in GT3. Look at all of the Porsche 911s. Porsche, of course, the biggest winner in the history of this event with 19 24-hour wins here at Daytona. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with the command to start engines for the Rolex 24. Stay with us. Welcome back live to a beautiful day here at Daytona International Speedway. We're just moments away from the command to start engines for the Rolex 24. Let's get down to the grid and hear from our honorary starter, racing driver, and our old friend, Derek Daly.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the most famous words in racing, the Grand Marshal of the 36th Rolex 24 at Daytona, Mr. Derek Daly.
Drivers, Ganairi and Boherlat, and start your engines.
Come to life. Engines, 40 pushrod V8s, 28 Porsche flat sixes, 4 Mazda rotaries, a Chrysler V10, 4 Ferrari V12s, a V6, 4 inline sixes, 2 inline 4-cylinder engines, turbocharged and normally aspirated. The most mechanically diverse race you will find anywhere on the planet is about to unfold here at Daytona. Let's get down to the pit road.
On the clock, this race is 24 hours long. On the track, it can be as long as nearly 2,500 miles. Yet 2 years ago, the winning margin was just 65.5 seconds. It's an old cliche, but it even works at Daytona. It's not over till it's over.
The antithesis of this race is about to happen. These guys are going to go out there. Remember, most of the time, they're going flat out. Now they've got to get that discipline that we've talked about all week long. Discipline to save the car, save the tires, save the fuel, save themselves.
It's been said so many times, you have to get to the morning, and then the race truly begins. Here's a look at the starting lineup for the 36th Rolex 24 at Daytona. 2 Ferraris on the front row, Ferrari and a Ford R&S Mark III on row 2, the defending champions from Dyson Racing. If you brought a list of track records for this event, throw it away. We have 4 brand new ones in qualifying for this great event. Every class saw its fastest pole sitter in history. And on the very front row, we're creeping closer to the magic 130-mile-an-hour average lap speed here at Daytona.
Yes, Bob, that was just phenomenal to watch that qualifying run by Dalmas in that car. That is getting down to the old GTP times, so when, of course, the IMSA GTP cars used to run here a number of years ago. Just phenomenal for these Can-Am cars.
It really is, and I think for the GT1 cars as well, they are so fast down the straightaway. Sure, they're heavier, sure, they have more restrictions, but, you know, they're going to give some of these Can-Am cars a real run for their money.
There's your first GT3 car there in 33rd position overall. That tells you how far back in the field those GT3 cars are.
Keep in mind, these are average speeds around this 3.56-mile racetrack with many slow corners. including the 2 international horseshoes, the East and West horseshoes, and a very slow turn up onto the NASCAR banking. We use almost all of the NASCAR tri-oval. 24 hours ahead of all of these drivers from around the world. A huge field, as we mentioned, perhaps the best field that has ever rolled off for this great race. And the stories about to unfold will keep you entertained for 24 hours, trust me.
And boy, you know, you got to feel sometimes if you're not in a Porsche, you're really being outnumbered here. I mean, the Porsches just dominate, and that's why they've won so many races here at Daytona and, of course, at the Le Mans 24-hour as well.
Part of the reason is those are air-cooled engines. Not all the Porsches here, but the ones you're looking at on these particular parts of the grid. And, of course, that's less moving parts. They have the reliability. They carry a lot of oil in street trim as well. They're just very reliable. Marty?
Well, we've already got trouble with the number 60 of Shane Donnelly. His Can-Am car has got an oil leak. You can see it dripping out of the cooler. They are working right now. They're going to bypass the system. The cooler has been bypassed totally. They're going to try and get him back out here and get him started into the race. I don't know, fellas. It's an awful long way to go without that cooler.
Well, we not only have problems in the pit lane, we have problems out on the infield, and this is where all of the fans like to stay at Daytona. They don't go into the grandstand, they go out into the infield where they can stand by the fences just a few yards from the sports cars whizzing by. But there is a fire that got completely out of control, although it looks like we're seeing steam from it now, so they're apparently hitting it with extinguishers, and things appear to be under control. Now we are on board the GT3 Porsche 993, the only one in the field. The quartet of drivers. There is Anthony Lazzaro on board his Can-Am Spider.
Yeah, I think we got a little mix-up on our graphic there. That was not the M3. That was one of the Can-Am cars.
Now you're on board one of the BMWs. Up on the banking. And many of the cars in this field were not designed to race on the high banks of Daytona. Some of the drivers from other parts of the world who are in some of the Can-Am and some of the faster GT1 cars say this is an entirely new experience for them. On board the 41, I'm sorry, I thought it was a BMW. It's a Porsche 911 from Chris Cervelli, Court Wagner, Kelly Collins, whom we heard from earlier. And now we are on board one of the PTG BMWs, the defending champions in this event. Bill Auberlen, a new BMW factory driver, signed a contract recently. He is the pole sitter in that class, in that car. Now on board the number 11 machine, a Can-Am car. It's easy to tell there is no windshield out there in front of the driver, no roof overhead. During the weekend, Lynn St. James has told us, well, it's great to be out there in the airflow, but I don't think she'll feel that way if we get rain. None is predicted, but you never know at Daytona.
And this is on board the GT1, the Mosler Raptor. This is the all-American effort here. This car built just down the road in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Shane Lewis, the development driver for that factory. Now on board another of the GT3 cars. Again, we have a mix-up. That is not a Can-Am car.
Now, that would be the 10 car. That is, of course, a BMW. And this is the champion Porsche in the GT1 class.
This is going to be an interesting battle between the Panos normally aspirated 6-liter Fords and these Porsche GT1s. To Marty Reed.
Yes, the 0 Ford Mustang of Scott Maxwell, Jason Priestley, David Embraham. Maxwell at the wheel did not fire. They had to take off the back end. It turned out to be the battery. The car has just been fired. They're still got to put the front on. They're buttoning down the back as well. And he will be out, but he's going to have no chance to get warmed up because we're going green next time by.
Well, it wouldn't be the Rolex 24 without a few little drummers just before the green flag flies. If we go back on board one of the Can-Am machines.
Yeah, this is that is Eliseo Salazar in the 36 car. Of course, Salazar, the IRL driver, and he was actually a very late addition to this car with Jim Pace, Barry Waddell, and of course team owner Jim Matthews.
Eliseo Salazar from Chile, a man with Formula One experience, driving open-wheeled cars in recent years. As you mentioned, Jeremy, now on board the beautiful red and white Momo Ferrari. They have been knocking at the door year after year at this race, but Giampiero Moretti, into his 50s, who has raced here 15 times without winning, thinks this may be his best chance ever.
And Giampiero always likes to start this race, and he's not as quick as the other guys in the other Ferraris, and we'll probably see him move back a little bit, but he just loves to start.
It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time at Daytona International Speedway. The field of 75 cars has completed warming up tires and engines in anticipation of the green flag for 24 hours of flat-out racing. 4 classes of automobile: the open-top Can-Am Spyders, the GT1, 2, and 3 machines based on production sports cars with varying levels of speed. They will start mixing it up, faster cars overtaking slower cars, and to a man, the drivers say the key here at Daytona is traffic. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Jeremy Dale, Jan Beekes, Marty Reed, and Bill Weber are in the pit lane. We have 3 hours of live coverage coming up, and then we'll be covering the action throughout the night until we see you again tomorrow morning, Sunday at 7 a.m., with all of the news of the nighttime hours here at the Rolex 24 as we take you to the checkered flag. And now one of the most awesome moments in racing as they come down to the green.
And I must say, these guys haven't really formed up very well. Now they're slowing down. Pace car will wait to the last possible moment here.
Bob Pearson of the SCCA is the safety car driver. Ferraris lead the way into turn 1.
I always love these opening laps at Daytona. Everyone is so charged up, so ready to go. And it's interesting to see who has the discipline and who just wants to go for it.
Especially as you look back through the field as they weave through turn number 2, it gets more and more crowded. You can see how many of these Porsche 911s are starting today. A whole huge pack in the middle and here towards the rear.
Back up front, Yannick Dalmas has the pole-sitting car out front, but one of the Dyson Racing RNS Mark III's pulling up. That's James Weaver.
Yeah, James is a real scrapper, and he loves to get up there and mix it up. And he knows these Ferraris are quicker, but he'd like to show them a little bit of what he's got to offer.
First time through NASCAR turns 1 and 2, and onto the backstretch, down to Bill Weber.
The 44 Porsche, one of the first victims here in the Rolex 24. It appears to be an oil leak problem. Never took the green flag, limped down pit road, stopped in its pit stall now. They look underneath the car, checking for an oil leak. Back to the race.
Vincent Dupont, Fons Dales, Hans Willems, and Harold Gross, a former winner of this race. He won the GT1 category last year with another team, that Porsche 911. Problems from the start. There's one of the silver Panos, 6-liter Jack Roush Ford powered. And there's a good bunch of diversity right there. 2 GT1 cars, including the Porsche in the middle, and on the right, one of the Can-Am open-top machines.
And I think we're going to see that battle between those GT1 leaders. Here we are on board with Giampiero Moretti as he comes off the tri-oval down into the infield, braking very hard.
Now watch his head as he goes through the infield. You can see how stiffly these Ferraris are sprung. This is a fairly smooth course, but you wouldn't know it by watching how much vibration is transferred to the driver. And again, that's because they need the big spring rate to hold the car up on the oval.
Giampiero in 4th place right now.
You can hear the car rub a little bit. When you hear that, that means they're running the car low. It, of course, is full of fuel right now. As you burn the fuel off, it weighs about 7 pounds per gallon. The car raises up and doesn't drag as much.
Look at Weaver here on the infield. Now, when they came onto the infield, look at James Weaver laying the rubber down, going up into 2nd place, past Wayne Taylor in the Ferrari, and Wayne will power around him, going down straightaway.
Welcome to a 24-hour sprint race, folks.
Well, that's why I love these opening laps. These guys like to show each other what they've got. After an hour or so, things will begin to settle down, but usually that first stint is really, really exciting.
Well, Rob Dyson and his team know what it's like to drop out in the early hours. They did that several seasons ago at this race with mechanical problems. Back up to the leading red Ferrari, a 333 SP. The numbers indicate the capacity of each of the 12 cylinders in cubic centimeters. And SP stands for Sports Prototype. Built by the Michelotto firm in Italy for the Ferrari factory.
And as Wayne Taylor and James Weaver come through the trioval, you can see that gap is quite large. But Weaver will begin to close that up right here. Very good on the brakes, the Riley & Scott chassis. And by the time they get back out onto the oval, James Weaver will be right up with Wayne Taylor again.
One of the reasons for that is the revs that these cars use. This 12-cylinder Ferrari can use 11,000 RPM if they choose, and they can actually use that for much of the 24 hours. The 8-cylinder, the Ford that you're seeing with the Dyson machine, it can use 8,000 RPM if they choose, but they really can only use 7,000 RPM when they're doing the 24 hours.
We have a car stopped on the track, the number 55 GT3 class Porsche 911. Jorge Trejos, Tim Ralston, Nigel Smith, and Tom Peterson on the driver's strength. That car prepared by Dennis Ossie, who is a veteran at building quality race cars.
And you can see our leaders already lapping slower cars. We're on the 3rd lap of a 24-hour race, and they are already lapping slower cars. This race is all about traffic, and that gets back to that Riley & Scott chassis. James Weaver right now is showing that he's much better in the infield, and when they get into traffic, especially at night, that's going to be a key factor for that Dyson team.
Last lap for the race leader, a 1:43.181. Compare that with Yannick Dalmas's record qualifying time, 1:39.195.
This is a great view of the two cars. You can see that Riley & Scott has a handling advantage. But, you know, I really feel that an easier way to pass traffic certainly is going to be on the straightaways. Maybe the Ferrari with the higher top speed on the straightaway will have an advantage in traffic.
The race continues under green as the stricken car is towed back toward the pits. Some people's dreams are being shattered early, while others' dreams are just beginning. We'll be back. Today's ESPN2 coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is being brought to you by Yokohama Tire Corporation, taking technology proven on the track to the street. Turn on technology with Yokohama Tires. And by the new Dodge. It's about change. Back live at Daytona, the leader's already working traffic.
Yeah, the most significant thing here is James Weaver has gotten by Wayne Taylor, and he has bridged the gap up to Yannick Dalmas. And I think that has basically happened through traffic. I was watching in the last lap in the infield. The traffic was just phenomenal.
There you see the speed differential between the open-top Can-Am cars, specifically built for races like this. Racing against the GT3 machinery, which are basically based on street cars and heavily restricted in terms of power and weight.
And look at James Weaver. I mean, these guys are forced to make very bold, very, very quick decisions and quick moves to get through this traffic, and it's taking a lot of chances very early on.
And the best way to get through traffic is to take chances. Now, that's a hard thing to tell your team owner, but a lot of times if you don't go up and be aggressive about it, a guy doesn't know if you're really going to make the pass or not. Marty?
Guys, a couple of observations. Watching the Lister Storm come down into turn number 1 already, like lap number 2, he had the brakes blazing. I mean, normally we don't see that kind of glow until the nighttime. Also, here in pit lane, the number 88 Spice with Anthony Lazzaro behind the wheel. They've got a misfire, and they have already been in here for a lap. Bill?
Well, in the GT3 class, the Pontiac Firebird of John Heinrichsey is back on pit road for a second visit. They have an oil pressure problem. Heinrichsey co-drove with Stu Hainer to victory in the Endurance Motorola Cup here yesterday, but early problems for the 32 Pontiac Firebird.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have a footnote on that Motorola Cup race yesterday here at Daytona. Rick Bye, a multi-time Canadian endurance racing champion, was seriously injured in a traffic accident while on his way to compete in that race. Toronto resident is in intensive care at the North Carolina Baptist Hospital in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and our thoughts are with him today. There's the Ford Mustang Cobra in the GT1 category, fielded by Tom Gloy Racing, a veteran Trans Am competitor, and a sterling young driver lineup. Robbie Buell, Tony Kanaan, open-wheel fame, and Mike Borkowski back up on the high banks.
And Wayne Taylor continues to drop back, and of course James Weaver continues to push the point of the front. Here's the Volcanoes cars weaving their way through traffic on the banking, and these two cars out front in their class.
Years ago, the great Formula One champion K.K. Rosberg said he never really wanted to go race at Daytona or Le Mans because he couldn't think of 250 other drivers in the world that he felt he'd be comfortable with driving at 200 miles an hour in the rain and the dark. Eventually, he did go. I guess he expanded his Rolodex.
Well, Bob, you know, that's a very good point, because what happens throughout practice and qualifying here is that as you spend time on the racetrack, you identify certain cars and certain styles of driving, but you don't get an opportunity to encounter every driver in every car. So you may expect one thing and something entirely different happens.
There's another great battle. The car on the left is interesting. It's a one-of-a-kind Mosler Raptor. Car built down the road, as Jeremy mentioned, here in Florida, using Chevrolet power.
Actually has a very big Chevrolet engine, a 420 cubic inch V8. But you can see it doesn't seem as though it's going to be the match here for the lighter Can-Am car.
Well, of course, as you say, Jan, the Can-Am car behind it is a much lighter car, but that once that Raptor gets up to speed, it's not hurting. And of course, the closed cockpit cars are much more aerodynamic than the open cockpit cars are. But still, top speed-wise, you would expect that Can-Am car to stay with the GT1 car.
And the Raptor is a GT1 car. It's based on a Consigliere, which is a street-going supercar built by the Mosler people. And in fact, the Consigliere won a 24-hour race for road-going cars down in West Palm Beach, Florida, about a month ago.
And this is the camera shot off the back of the Raptor.
Well, it doesn't sound like he's twisting that engine much either.
No, well, that's a lot of cubic inches. And I think the safest thing with a pushrod V8 at the Daytona 24-hour is to just go easy. Gear the car tall, don't use a lot of RPM, and don't push the car any harder than you have to.
And I think that's why James Weaver has been making it run through the field and the infield, but then struggles on the straightaways, is because they are holding him to very low revs, whereas the Ferraris can use almost all of their 11,000.
Now that car running behind is the number 95 Can-Am Kudzu Chevy, Kudzu chassis, built in Jim Downing shops in Atlanta, Georgia, with a Chevy V8 in it. And sharing the driving chores are the car owner, Tom Valk, Lynn St. James, the former Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year, Jared Schroeder from Vineland, New Jersey, an open-wheel veteran as well, and the veteran Pete Halsmer.
Yeah, Pete was a late addition to that car. Let's go down to Bill Weber.
Well, here on pit road, the number 11 Can-Am car with Rick Fairbanks sits on pit road. They have a power problem. It just will not produce any power. So they're very frustrated. They've taken off the rear bonnet. You can see some smoke and some steam coming out of the rear portion of the engine. Fairbanks firing some towels and a visor outside of the cockpit. Very disappointed with how the car's handling here in the early going. To Marty.
Yes, and Mike Borkowski sits behind the wheel, and you can see what the problem is. A new transmission is going to have to go into the number 4 Mustang of Tom Gloy Racing. And for Borkowski and his teammates, Robbie Buell and Tony Kanaan, big disappointment. They knew they did not have the horsepower. They needed the reliability to stay with the front pack. Now, remember, it's also 24 hours still to race, so they're not out of this thing, and they're going to change this probably in about 30 minutes, and he'll be back out.
Well, in the old Jack Roush days, you guys, I'm sure, remember, Jack Roush won, I believe it was 9 straight GT1 races here at Daytona. They used to actually program in a gearbox change, and they did it in 9 minutes.
Well, obviously, this team has some catching up to do. They may have been there 9 minutes already as we go back to the leader of the race.
Stranger things have happened here at the Rolex 24. Leaders continuing to work traffic. GT3 machine being lapped by Yannick Dalmas of France, who has won at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, looking for his first win here at the Rolex 24. Second place car, the red, white, and blue number 16 Riley and Scott chassis, built in the Indianapolis shops, the Riley and Scott company. They build IRL machinery now.
And Rob Dyson was really the first guy to run the Riley and Scott, a big part of that car being built in the first place. We wanted to encourage Riley and Scott to build an affordable race car that anyone could go out and buy and be competitive with, and that's what Riley and Scott did.
And I think that James Weaver is in a pretty good spot here. Sometimes you don't want to be first in class because Yannick Dalmas would have already gone by these cars, so they're already kind of getting ready. Oh, here's one Can-Am. There should be another one coming soon.
There's a striking resemblance to the car that used to be known as a Chevrolet Intrepid. And kudos to the Dyson team, too. As you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, they stuck with that Ford pushrod V8 built by the Lozano brothers, shops out in the Midwest. After winning this race last year, suddenly they have the full attention of the Ford Motor Company, and that certainly helps. We'll be back to bring you up to date on the rundown. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, up on the NASCAR banking here at Daytona. Here's a look at our full field rundown. The first 15 cars, their classes, car number, and make. As we have a little over 23 hours to go in this Rolex 24.
Are we there yet?
Aboard the Olive Garden sponsored Porsche. And you can detect the different engine notes. One of the interesting things to do at this track is to stand down by the fence, turn your back on the racetrack, and try and guess who's going by the noise from the engine. Don't stand
he's
too
off
close
the
to
course.
fence.
He's off. Is that for me?
That's David Murray in one of the two Matthews Colucci Racing Riley and Scott chassis.
Well, that is very interesting. This team has had, this is a brand new car, by the way, and David had a little incident with it at the test about 3 weeks ago, and they had to pretty much rebuild that car. It was a pretty hard hit, actually, coming onto the banking at turn 6. They rebuilt it, and so early on here, they're running a ways down in the class, ninth overall and 9th in their class.
Numbers on the right column tell you how many laps down a given car is, and there's a lot of lapping going on right now. The big numbers will go to the cars who have been in the pits for an extended period of time. So David Murray's woes continue carefully in here. Infield section known as the International Horseshoe. Now the left-hand kink coming up at top speed.
Yeah, well, you're not going to take it.
A little
well, you're not going to, you know, to give all the credit, you're not going to take it flat out with, you know, approaching it offline like that.
Oh, I can. I'm up here. Up on the banking, race leader Yannick Dalmas on his merry way, reaching one of the fastest parts of the racetrack, 195 miles an hour plus. And keep in mind, he's sitting out there in the wind stream. Second place car at the top of the screen in blue and white. That's James Weaver looking around. The Englishman has raced in sports cars in America for many years.
And you know, I've always felt that the you can hear that is the Momo team talking to their driver. But the first driver, you know, I always think it's up to him to set the tone for the team for the race. He gets in, he sets the tone, gets the rhythm happening up into that first fuel stop, and that really does set the tone for the race.
Bill Weber in the pit lane.
Well, just as you guys up there had speculated, it is a conservative approach for James Weaver in the 16 and for his teammate Butch Leitzinger in the 20. Maximum revs of 7,000. That's about 1,000 less than that car is capable of. Pat Smith told me just a conservative approach here to get us going.
Let's move back and pick up our third place car. Wayne Taylor, former series champion, back in 1996, a winner in this race, driving a Riley and Scott chassis with Oldsmobile power. Interesting to note that 3 Ferraris in this field are on 3 different types of tire.
This one you're looking at here is the Pirelli tire. We have a Yokohama and a Goodyear, and the 01 on pit road.
Oh, one of the front runners in the GT1 class.
Now this may, you know, this may just be, we're about 21 minutes into the race. This may be just an early stop so they can measure how much fuel they're using, put a set of tires on it, look at the tires. They know it's not really going to cost them time. I'm quite sure that that was a scheduled stop, even though it's early.
Alan McNish, a regular Porsche development driver, getting a chance to start in one of the world's great sports car races. Danny Sullivan also on the driving straight.
And Bob, watch this pit out here. Very sharp right there with that guardrail, and there have been many very good, very talented drivers who have crashed leaving the pits here at Daytona.
Nothing like getting on the radio to tell the crew, well, I had a little problem when I reached the Armco.
So we understand they were cleaning some debris from the nose, So maybe he drove through some debris or maybe a quick off-road excursion, and he thought, okay, maybe there's some grass in the nose of that car.
Alan McNish gets it up to speed. Also on the driver strength for that team, Jörg Mueller, as the second place car of James Weaver goes by to put the 01 a lap down. Jörg Mueller is the test driver for the Sauber Formula One team, beginning immediately. Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, the 19 Corvette, Davin, Mark Montgomery, and A.J. Smith came in, topped off with fuel. They were checking tires as well. Now, my guess is, Jeremy, you might be right, and this team may be looking, saying, hey, how far can we go on these tires? The track temperature, we just checked with Yokohama, they say it's now 80 degrees track temperature. That's the warmest it's been all week, so everybody wants to know what the tires are doing.
And 80 degrees really isn't too bad. I mean, it's been warm here, but not hot. And I think 80 degrees really is quite reasonable. And a lot of these guys will run a softer compound once the sun goes down and the racetrack starts to cool off.
Each tire manufacturer has brought 2 different compounds per class, so you do have a choice, but you are limited to only 2. They don't bring a whole truckload of compounds. They're not allowed to by regulations.
But they do bring truckloads of tires.
Yeah. Charge loads for them too, as I recall. $1,800 or so for a set of 4. And so that becomes a budget consideration for some of the less heavily sponsored teams in this field. How many sets do we absolutely need to go the distance?
Oh, it's a huge budget consideration. Here we are back on the Pano's cars, up at the front of GT1, going into the bus stop chicane. Look at the traffic, slow. Oh, it looks like one of them's in trouble. Boy, that was very unusual. Very unusual to let your teammate by in the chicane like that.
99 car on the left, the number 5 car on the right. I wonder if running in lockstep like this is a part of their team plan.
I find that a very unusual place to let your teammate by. It's one thing to get on the radio and say, okay, why don't you guys swap positions, let your teammate go by, but to do it in the middle of the chicane, in the middle of traffic, is very peculiar.
No, I agree, and it does not appear as though the problem is continuing because the 2 cars are staying together. But Bob, to answer your question about 2 cars running together, whether that would be designed by the team, you wouldn't think so, because if something was going to befall one car, it would end up befalling both. So I don't think it's a great idea for 2 cars to run so close together. They can get in each other's accident.
They're running first and second in the GT1 category. The 3rd place car, the number 38 machine, is about 8 seconds back up the road.
And I just want to go back to talking about the chicane a little bit. The reason that surprised me is that last year and every year, the chicane is one of the areas on this racetrack that we see the most trouble. People lose their patience in there, and they get worried about being held up. So in that second part of the chicane, they try and make a pass, and often it's too late, and often there's contact.
Could be a case of, I'm not sure if they go to a higher gear there. Sometimes you'll go down to 2nd or 3rd gear, and then in the middle of the chicane, you'll go up a gear. It could be possibly a missed gear for one car, and then it wasn't, by design, but you move over and let your teammate go through while you knock it into gear, because you don't want to try and grab a gear quickly here. That's the one thing that really gets you in trouble.
Another clutch of traffic, and the 2nd car into the chicane there is the 3rd place car in the GT1 class. That's another 911 GT1 Porsche.
And look at that. Anytime you see people making a pass like that in the second part of the chicane, you want to watch that very carefully, because that is the recipe for disaster back there.
Driving that 3rd place car, Terry Boutsen, the Formula One veteran from Belgium, Andy Pilgrim, who put on an amazing show yesterday driving a BMW in the 2-hour showroom stock race, the Motorola Cup event, and Ralph Kelleners, who won this race in the GT2 class in a Porsche last year.
And now we're looking at the team cars from Matthews Colucci Racing. That's David Murray in the 39 car, Salazar in the 36 car, both Ford-powered Riley and Scott chassis.
They run 9th and 10th overall.
And actually, that second car that Salazar in, that is the chassis that won the 24-hour here last year. That is the Weaver, the Dyson car from last year.
Looking out the back of the Porsche. Distinctive chirp of the wastegate closing on the turbocharger.
And that is David Murray we're looking at there, who is closing in. And he won't close in real quickly here because this GT1 car is a very quick car. probably under braking is Murray's best chance to close up. Certainly on horsepower and top speed, there's not a huge difference between these two cars.
In fact, at the very end of the straightaway, the Porsche could be faster because of aerodynamics, but right in here, where acceleration is playing a part, but now, look, he might actually pull away as they get into the aerodynamic part of the straightaway.
Here's where Murray will close up, heavily under braking and then through the chicane, which is very important transitions from left to right and back from right to left as you go through. And there's the Porsche going by a slower car, kicks up a little dirt at that third apex in the chicane there.
I didn't hear those revs drop much through the second part of that chicane as Terry Boutsen takes it around. We'll take a quick break and return live to Daytona. We're working traffic here at the Rolex 24. We are back at Daytona International Speedway in the opening hour of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We'll be here till 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Then we'll be back tomorrow morning, Sunday at 7 a.m. Eastern to take you through the final 6 hours of the great race and 30 minutes beyond to meet the winners. High overhead, the airship Bud 1, which reminds you that fresh beer tastes better. And we couldn't have a better platform for our aerial shots against a beautiful Florida blue sky. The weather forecast is good for this 36th running of the Rolex 24. Down on the infield, car number 30, the Momo Ferrari, battling for 4th place in the overall. Car number 20 is the sister car to the 16 Dyson Racing Machine, which is currently in 2nd place. The 20 machine runs in 5th behind the Momo Ferrari.
And these cars running about 30 seconds back, 30 to 32 seconds back from the overall leaders.
Man behind the headlights back there is Butch Leitzinger, the defending series champion.
And you can listen to that 12-cylinder engine. It is so much different sounding than anything else we've been on board with today.
Leitzinger closing up as they head for that slow entry to the chicane.
And the second part of the chicane, the 38 car, the champion GT1 Porsche, off the road. That is Boutsen.
Now, they pitted once before for debris in the radiators. Excuse me, the 01 car did. Down to Bill Weber.
Well, the first of our contenders is on pit road. This is James Weaver in his Dyson 16 Ford, the Riley and Scott chassis, getting right side tires and left side tires. They're running on Goodyears. This will not be a driver change. They were expecting him in about a couple more laps, and he's in now, obviously. Fuel, waiting on the tires. Fuel is done. Now they hold him, and James Weaver will return to the race. Watch for his teammate here shortly in the 20 car, and the 30 car should also be in momentarily.
Sticker tires on the number 16 as James Weaver heads back out. A moment ago, we saw Terry Boutsen off in the Porsche GT1. That's not necessarily.
You let me know exactly how much fuel you put in. Thank you very much.
That's James Weaver talking to Pat Smith. Here's the 60 car.
As we can.
We've got a lot going on here at once. That was James Weaver talking to Pat Smith.
That's another one-of-a-kind Can-Am chassis, a Keeler with Ford power. Shane Donnelly, Tim Moser, Chris Wilson, the drivers. Now let's take a look at what happened to the 38 Porsche.
This is through the kink in the infield, under braking now. And he goes around the outside of a car in traffic and just drives off the road. I think he just got in a little hot there.
You saw tire smoke, I believe, from the right rear. Now there's the 60 going around. Shane Donnelly at the controls. And now we're hearing word that there may be fluid down there in turn 1. Back on board with Terry Boutsen.
You can hear the wastegate chirping away there. Now these are the water-cooled 911s. This is a new generation of 911, and this is a water-cooled motor. So you saw the 01 car stop earlier to clean that debris out. That is so much more important than it would have been in the old air-cooled days. With these water-cooled cars, you've got to get that debris out of the radiator.
The Lister Storm with its Jaguar 12-cylinder engine is in the pits. Marty Reed
Yes, and Wayne Taylor, the second place car, comes in, and they are going to change all fours. They're going to put a set of scuffs on and put a full load. Wayne Taylor will stay in the car. We're waiting for the race leader as well. He's about 4 pits away, and he should be pitting in about 2 laps at best. So the pit stop's coming here. And these guys have got a pretty good clip on this. I mean, everybody's got it done. As always, the fuel is regulated so that there is no rushing in any of the other areas. They don't want anybody not being belted in if a driver change happens and he's back out underway.
So scuffed tires on that number 17 Ferrari. A pit stop about 35 minutes into the action as Wayne Taylor originates in South Africa. He lives just up the road in Altamont Springs, Florida, with his wife and children. Coming back out. I think pit stops are crucial as you watch the number 39 car in the pits. David Murray, who's had an off and on. If you think quick pit stops are important in, say, NASCAR racing or perhaps the FedEx Championship Series, imagine what it's like when you're making about 30 pit stops in the course of a race.
But Bob, you know, what's more important is that you don't make mistakes, that you are very deliberate about what you do. If you cross-thread one of those nuts, it looks like David killed it there, and he's got it refired and on his way. If you cross-thread one of those wheel nuts, or if you don't get it properly tightened down, or if you damage the fuel filler, that could just take you right out of the event. So you have to be very deliberate on these pit stops.
Another thing I noticed on this car was that the front splitter, as it's called, the front nose section, was not damaged. So when he went off the course, oftentimes it will damage that portion of the car, but it looks A-OK for David Murray.
Lower left is the outside view of David Murray coming back on the track down that very narrow pit lane. Imagine what it looks like in the darkness. Down to the pit lane.
Butch Leitzinger has brought his car onto pit road, comes to a stop. Again, he'll get 4 sticker Goodyear Eagle tires and plenty of fuel. Now, his teammate James Weaver has reported that the track is very slick all the way around. Now, he's going to have to negotiate a car parked in front of him that they're working on in the pit stall directly in front of him, so he'll have to take his time getting out. Right now, waiting on the fuel and working on the right front. They're having some kind of problem with the air gun on the right front tire. They've had to grab a different gun to tighten it up. Now they, or rather to loosen it. Now they slide on the new Goodyear Eagle tire. Slap it into position. Use the second gun to tighten it up. Butch gestures with his hands, moving people around. Waits for the hydraulic lift to be removed. Tiptoes his way around the car parked in front of him and back out onto the racetrack. And that was not the smoothest stop for sure.
And you could tell that there was a problem right off because you could hear that air gun just rattling away, trying to get that right front tire off. And obviously, it's good to find out that one of your air guns is not up to snuff in your first stop.
Butch Leitzinger, a graduate of Penn State University, heads back out onto the racetrack. There is the race leader. We expect a pit stop shortly from the number 1 car in the field. We'll be back to show it to you.
Well, a very disturbed John Piero Moretti just leaving pit road in the Momo Ferrari. He just pitted for fuel, 4 tires, and for duct tape. He has damage to the right side of the car. Clearly has had contact, apparently with the tire of another car. They used tape to tape up that fiberglass body, and they have sent him back out on the racetrack. Arie Luyendyk was prepared to get into that car, had his helmet on, gloves on. Moretti was not getting out, so obviously Luyendyk could not get in. He was visibly upset about the condition of the car and about their fortunes here in the Rolex 24.
And I guess he can't chew anyone out, can he?
No, the boss is behind the wheel. Actually, Arie Luyendyk being upset would be something to see. He's about as even-keeled as they come. Here's the leading car. We expect a pit stop shortly.
And we are monitoring there.
Copy that. Copy that.
The driver has reported the fuel light on.
And here he comes, passing traffic on the way in. Remember, 60 miles per hour here.
It doesn't start until you see the line right there. You have to be up.
Look for me, Yannick. I'm down here. I'm waving. I'm waving. Is your pit speed? Pit speed. Second gear. Second gear. Look for me. Stop right on the sign. Don't pass the sign. Stop the nose right on the sign. There you go. Good job. Good.
Marty Reed is there.
Well, you were listening to Jeff Brown, the team tactician, just talk him in. Pit speed is 60 miles an hour. The number 99 Panos has just completed its pit stop. No driver change.
Limiter off. Pit speed limiter off, Yannick. There you go.
So Yannick listens to the instructions?
Oil enough. Low pressure because the revs are down. Because the revs are down, that's low pressure. Don't worry, don't worry. You have 430 tires. 430 tires.
That's the compound that he's referring to, the 4 Goodyears, they're scuffs that they put on. Now, the problem they have is that the 58 GT2 car is still in the pit lane in front. They had to pull him back. Now he's underway. So far, that gearbox is holding up well.
Scrub 430s. Scrub 430s, cold tires.
Whoops. Flat left rear. It's car number 28.
And guys, I just want to say, I think Jeff Braun did just an awesome job on the radio there. As a driver, that is exactly what you need. You need a very calm voice. You need very distinct words.
Well, 3 is off. Cold tires. Yannick Dalmas was told.
And Jeff Brown, he said, he reminded him, cold tires. You're on cold tires. You're leaving the pits.
I was about to remark, it's interesting to listen to that interchange. Sometimes the crew chief has to be a psychiatrist, a father.
And that's Dalmas trying to tell him that he's been off the road, that he has spun.
That's okay, Yannick. Just settle down. Settle down. Nice and easy. Nice and easy.
You know, that's exactly what you need from your team manager. But I think he saw...
Oh, my.
Look at that.
Can't tell if they touched.
No, I don't think they touched. But I think he saw Weaver go by him and said, you know what? I got to catch Weaver.
Let's have another angle of that. There's the car coming from the left. That's the Mazda Kudzu.
And you can see James Weaver in the foreground there.
My. So Yannick Dalmas is on his way. Let's go back to that blown tire. Whoa. Fastest part of the racetrack. The left rear goes down.
Well, at least it didn't go down on the banking. At least he was in a straight line.
That's a Riley and Scott chassis. John Field, Butch Brickell, Rick Sutherland, and Sam Brown sharing the driving. And he's got a long way to go to get to the pits.
And I'm amazed that it didn't do more damage. Usually an exploding tire will completely wipe out that rear deck. And actually, it looked like it was in pretty good shape.
No, I think that the belt of the tire actually is intact. I think the sidewalls blew out because you can still see some black here. And it's when the actual tread of the tire explodes that, yes, it'll blow all the bodywork right off the back of the car.
John Field from Dublin, Ohio, behind the wheel. Now, as we mentioned, Yannick Dalmas saw James Weaver go by, and we have a new leader. Car to the left of your screen, rapidly working his way through traffic. James Weaver in the Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford. Whoa! Oh, my. That's what can happen to you here at Daytona.
I got to tell you guys, I never worry about James Weaver. The guy is so solid. He never makes a mistake. I mean, he'll make the odd quick move like that, but he's just such a solid endurance driver that you just never worry about him.
It's the other guy I'm thinking about.
Goes back to that K.K. Rosberg thing.
Absolutely. Car number 30, that's Giampiero Moretti, who chose not to let Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk take over the car, and he is about to be swallowed up by the race leader. Bill Weber has more.
Well, I talked to Kevin Durant, the team manager, and basically he said that I'm pretty sure he must have run into a slower car because he wouldn't have run into a faster one. But the point is, they're not sure how good or how bad that car is. He said it's going to take a few laps to find out. They're definitely concerned about the bodywork on the right-hand side that they have to tape up. To Marty Reed.
Yes, the 28 car is in. That left rear tire just shredded, and it is on its way to be changed. They will make a driver change as well. And it looks like, other than that, I'm trying to see if there's any excess damage on that rear quarter panel, guys. And they do have some damage on the left rear that doesn't look to be too significant. They're going to lose some tail lights and a little bit of that ductwork there. But as far as affecting the ground effects of the car, I don't think they're going to have a problem.
And we should reiterate, it's a long race. 23 and a half hours to go as James Weaver comes right up behind the Momo Ferrari and bids it a lap down. Well, not quite yet.
Well, see, there's Weaver. He's saying to himself, listen, I'm going to have to take a big risk to get through this traffic. Let's work our way through this, and then I will pass Moretti.
Quick look in his mirrors to make sure he's clear of the traffic behind. Whoop, traffic ahead. He's going to have to stay on the high line. As I recall, this is what the drivers are told in the drivers' meeting. If you're slower, you're being overtaken, stay low.
That's right, but that causes confusion because, as you can see, when they come out onto the banking, whether it's from the chicane or from the infield, the natural racing line is to track right up to the wall, but they're told to stay low. So it really is as Dorsey Schrader would say, it's a confliction.
Yeah, and I think really that James Weaver was expecting that Mustang a couple laps ago to stay low. He started to go high, and that's why we all in the booth just held our breath. But like you said, when you're a good endurance driver, you know what a driver should do, but then you make sure you have an open opportunity if he does something different.
We'll take a break as the battle continues all around the racetrack. Plenty of time for those cars who are several laps down to make it up. We've got battles going on to tell you about, which we'll do when we return to Daytona International Speedway. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, the Rolex 24, a part of the new U.S. Road Racing Championship. A great old racing name.
47.9.
Pit crews giving their drivers lap times. There's the race leader, number 16, James Weaver from Wiltshire in England, driving a Ford-powered RNS Mark III chassis for Rob Dyson. Now, just before the break, we talked about how much time there is left in this race. Roughly 23 hours and 12 minutes. So how important is it for Giampiero Moretti to stay ahead of James Weaver at this point?
It's not really that important. I mean, you'd rather not go down a lap, but if he's not sure how the car is handling, you know, what kind of shape the alignment is in, then you just take your time. It looks like Weaver's ducking up the inside here, coming through the second hairpin.
The thing is, though, he's going to have a big lead coming onto the banking because the Ferrari is so much faster on the straightaway. If there's no slower cars, watch about halfway through this banking how fast he will close in on James Weaver. But, you know, James may have enough this time. Here he comes. But will he try and pass him back?
He's running out of time.
Oh.
He thought about it.
Yeah, a battle of the wills there. The last of the late breakers, as they call it.
Wow, Weaver is just so awesome on the brakes, and that Riley Scott chassis makes a lot of downforce, and it's very good under braking.
As you ride with Giampiero Moretti, let's check out the GT1 class leaderboard. Right now, the number 5 Panos chassis with that booming Jack Roush 6-liter Ford V8 is out front. Alan McNish right there in the Porsche 911 GT1. And then Eric Bernard in the second Panos. And here is the battle. On the left, the silver car is the Panos. The white car is the Porsche. Now remember, 01 stopped earlier to have debris removed from the radiators. Cars spinning as they are passed by the leaders. Not unusual for someone, if they're taken by surprise by faster cars, to perhaps just get on the accelerator or the brakes too quickly and give themselves a little lurid skid.
And this is the battle that we expect in the GT1. The Panos cars against the GT1 Porsches. This one, of course, is the GT1 they call the Evo. Here's one of the Oldsmobile Spice cars. That is just raw fuel in the tailpipe.
And that is Simon Gregg from Jacksonville, Florida. 25 years ago, his father, the late Peter Gregg, won the first of his 3 victories here at the Rolex 24.
And what he was looking for, he was looking back to the turn worker to make sure that before he pulled back on the course was clear, because he did not have a view himself of when the other cars were coming.
And I was talking about the 911 Evolution. Oh, look, the Panos gets... Whoa, the Panos gets... Oh! That second part of that chicane. You gotta watch out, that second part of the chicane.
Andy Wallace in the Panos on the left. Alan McNish of Scotland on the right in the Porsche.
I think that Alan McNish did the right thing there. He could have been aggressive and tried to make that move, but he knows that the bus stop chicane can be calamity corner, and knows that, well, it's early in the race. I don't need to push it that hard, but he did have an opportunity.
10 seconds behind this battle is the 3rd place car in GT1, the other Panos. Down to Marty Reed.
Well, remember, guys, that the 01 had to stop a little earlier, and the one advantage they feel that they really have over the Panos is fuel consumption. So round 1 is pretty much an even draw, because right now the 01 is out of sync with the Panos.
6 cars on the lead lap as we take a look at our field summary. The last car on the lead lap, the GT1 leader. through the kink.
I'll tell you, that's what happens when you put lap traffic in between the car you're racing. Look at the Porsche now. That gap was nose to tail 1 lap ago, and look where he is now. And this is where it takes patience. This is where you have to say, okay, I'm going to lose a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds on this lap. There's plenty of time to make up that distance.
Saw the name Rohr, R-O-H-R, on the back of that car, and on the nose, Jochen Rohr is the car owner, a winner in the GT1 category in a more conventional Porsche 911 a year ago.
If you can call Porsche 911s conventional in any sense.
Right, exactly. Whoops, blue tire smoke from somebody getting a little over anxious at the chicane. And we'll see dust building up there. McNish makes quick work of slower traffic. And when there is dust, it's hard to get those tires to bite.
Now, that one was okay because it was a slower car. It was either a GT2 or GT3 machine. And if you pass someone in the bus stop chicane and make sure you're by them before you get to the next right-hander, it's okay. But if you're racing in class, it is definitely taking a big risk to try and pass in the second part of that chicane.
Very dodgy to pass in there. And I hold my breath literally every time someone pulls out in there.
Our field summaries will be showing you the number of laps down a car might be, so those negative numbers, and they will get pretty steep in a race as long as this 24-hour grind. It tells you how many laps behind the leader a given car is.
And it looks like the leading Panos is coming up to lap one of the other GT1 Porsches. I believe that's the champion car there. I didn't catch the number, but this Panos is our leader in GT1, and that, of course, is one of the 911s. Look at the Porsche close up under braking.
That's the 0-0. So that would be the 911 GT1, but not the Evo.
Yeah, I haven't had the time to talk about the Evo, and we will get to that. But right now, the Panos puts that 0-0 car a lap down. But yes, these two Porsches look very similar, but actually they are quite different.
That 0-0 car, the more standard 911 GT1, is being driven by Christophe Beauchute of France, Patrice Gouzelard, Carl Rosenblatt, and Andre Arl, who was a GT1 class winner here a year ago. That car nosed heavily into the tires during the warm-up this morning. They had to do some quick repair work to get it ready for the starting grid.
And really, the Rohr car that McNish is driving here it's not a full-on factory works entry, but it is pretty close. The car is owned by the factory and has been entered by the factory. And of course, McNish is a Porsche test driver and so on. So this is pretty much a works car, and it's a good preparation for them for Le Mans next year. Great action here out on the banking. A couple of 911 Porsches. Look at the Ferrari come flying by. What a great shot that is. There's Wayne Taylor going down the inside into the chicane.
And that's kind of what you hope for. You hope to pass all of your cars on the approach to the chicane so you can get a nice clean run through. But obviously it doesn't happen that often.
On board with car number 6, the BMW, running 3rd in class, 24th in the overall standings.
These cars about 155, maybe 160 miles an hour here through the tri-oval. But if a Ferrari were to come by now, you would know that there is a great speed differential. A couple of cars racing up ahead here.
Here's a look at the GT3 leaderboard. Bill Auberlen, the pole sitter in the class, leads away. Brian Cunningham in a second BMW. Then Kurt Wagner, Mike Doolin. And you see the rest of the top 10. Coming up on the 23-hour to go mark at the Rolex 24, a twice around-the-clock marathon, still in the early stages. .00 Eastern Time at Daytona Beach, Florida. Inside Daytona International Speedway, the 1998 running of the Rolex 24 is 1 hour old, but it is still just a puppy with 23 hours yet to run. on board the third place car in GT3. The pit stops continuing in the early going here as strategies begin to play out. Car number 60 is in the pits. Bill Weber is there. 69.
And they're fueling. They've made a 4-tire change, and they have changed drivers, so it's a full overhaul for the 69 cars that sits here on pit road. A clean windshield, fueling the car, now waiting simply for all the fuel to get in there. Of course, these cars, these GT2 cars, can run much longer than the Can-Am cars. They've got a problem apparently on the right rear. We can't see that, but they're working on that now. The fueling is done, so this is a delay for this car, losing precious time here on pit road.
That car pitted from 34th place in the overall standings. Up on the banking. Running the engine as high as it will rev. On board the number 41 machine, Kurt Wagner, chasing the number 6 BMW for second in the GT3 class. There they are. Wagner goes out the bottom, the BMW out the bottom of your screen. Wagner in the silver Porsche. The rear wings on these things.
You know, what amazes me about these 911s is that there are so many of them, but I can't find two that are actually identical. That is the amazing thing about the 911s.
And the engine sizes do vary depending on if they're a true unibody or if they've made some modifications, which then put them in a two-frame category.
See how they run out over that painted... You know, if you're familiar with road racing, you would think that that is actually a curbing out there. That is just paint. They want to keep those guys off the access road out there, but everyone knows it's just paint. They all drive over it anyway.
Mark Simos started the race in this BMW. 41 closing up. We'll see what happens going up onto the banking.
Yeah, Kurt's just going to let him go there. Not going to challenge him in the braking zone.
Now we'll see a 3.2-liter BMW versus a 3.8-liter Porsche. BMW water-cooled and the air-cooled 3.8. And so far, at least at this stage, looks like they're very evenly matched. He should close somewhat here just by virtue of the draft.
You can hear him go to 5th gear there. He's got a bit of a draft here. I would say the cars are very evenly matched. He's got a bit of a draft, but can't do much with it unless he gets alongside. Pretty equal in the braking zone. You can see those are real curves there in the chicane. This is our first look on the in-car through the chicane. Watch how the wall comes up here. They're going to track right up out to the wall.
Wagner's closer than he was when they went up on the banking down in turn 1. Let's see if they can get a run at him.
He's very much short shifting. And there, what a nice view of O'Reilly and Scott with that speed difference. Now what do you do? He's got a good draft, but he certainly can't hold the right.
Another heavy braking area coming up. Yokohama tires on the BMW, Pirelli's on the Porsche. Through the tri-oval area. Can't get it done. Look down the inside in turn 1.
I'll tell you, there are a number of different line options there as you come off the banking down onto the infield part of the racetrack. And you'll often see guys duck in under there when someone runs up high to kind of square or make a diamond out of that corner. Someone will duck inside them.
These two cars running 23rd and 24th in the overall, which means they have moved up somewhat from their starting positions. Once again, the Porsche creeps up. Closer than ever now as they head for the banking again.
He's got a nice run. You can hear how much he's short shifting. In other words, keeping the revs down to make sure the engine stays healthy.
You know, at times in an endurance race, what you want to do is you want to just hang out back there. Keep on showing the guy your nose and make him work a little harder. And maybe make him make a mistake. You're not actually going to challenge him. You're just going to, you know, dart around back there a little bit. Let him know you're there. Distract him a little bit.
Kurt Wagner started this car 40th as we go high overhead on the Bug 1 airship. Can-Am car is going to try to pass them both by the time they get to the chicane. Ooh, looking for a tow from the Can-Am machine.
Look at Kurt going out along the outside, but that's not going to happen. Actually, wide of that first apex by a good margin.
Oh, I wonder if the Can-Am car missed a shift. The BMW overtakes him in the chicane.
Oh, my.
He's thinking, I can't believe I got blocked by a Can-Am car in the bus stop chicane.
Well, a Can-Am car that was moving at a pretty good rate of speed. And here comes a Ferrari, I believe. Oh, no, it was that...
I think there's still a Ferrari in the background.
Look at that.
Oh, what a great shot.
That's Simon Gregor. Up high as they come off the banking. Now in the straightaway. Tri-oval dead ahead. Mark Simo on the BMW started his car 42nd in the field. Once again, lots of empty grandstands up high. That's not where you want to be. You want to be down on the fence. Oh, and the BMW gets chopped by a Can-Am car.
Well, there's a perfect example. The Can-Am car runs up high in the corner, and the BMW thinks, hey, there's a hole here. I should fill it.
Now, talking about Can-Am cars, the leaders are getting close to their pit stops. So we could see some action up and down pit road with the actual overall leaders of the race here sometime soon.
They look like an orange and white FIA piece of curbing along the horseshoe. It's actually just painted lines on the road, and virtually everybody goes right on over it. Now looking back from the BM as Wagner pulls up once again in the Porsche. Closer than ever now.
Yeah, this is certainly as close as it's been. This is great racing. It's not as cut and thrust as it would be in a shorter sprint race, but it doesn't really matter. Each driver is kind of really running within his own limit. Here's Wagner up alongside as they come up on the banking. And look at the cars behind these guys. There are some WSC cars, excuse me. Can-Am cars coming up to pass these guys, and they will catch them very quickly out along the outside there.
Once again, a couple of Can-Am cars sweep by. That red Porsche third in line there. Whoa! Going around a slower GT3 car. Oh, we got side by side and going into the chicane. You don't want to do that. That red Porsche there just behind the BMW is not racing for position. He's a couple of laps down.
And that's what it's like to be in the GT3 class here. You've got so much to deal with. In front of you, behind you, here's James Weaver. He is our leader. Down to 60 miles an hour for the pit lane. Bill Weber.
Rob Dyson out on pit road to flag down his car and his driver, and he will get in.
Reset the fuel if you can.
Weaver pulls to the cone. They yank the cone out. Belt's already undone. Weaver will climb out in a hurry. Dyson will climb in. They each have their own specific pad, so that seat will adjust to their body style. 4 Goodyear sticker tires and plenty of fuel. Second pit stop of the day for the defending race championship team. Now Weaver helps to buckle Dyson in the car. The fueling is done. The tire's done. They clean the grill. The little visor they're affixing right in front of the driver, tightening that down.
And Bill, this is the last thing you want to be waiting on. You want to get that driver change done before your tires and fuel are done.
Rob Dyson, the car owner, heads on his way, taking up the battle with the number 3 Ferrari again. The Lister Jaguar is in. Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, and they've got the front end off. Tiffany Dell has climbed in, but this is already a elongated stop. They are trying to diagnose something down into that big V12 engine compartment. They're not quite convinced they know what it is. Remember, yesterday they had a throttle linkage problem, and that's what they look like they're working on right now. They're revving the motor. They may have a throttle that's been sticking on them. We'll check and get back to you.
You mentioned a moment ago, Jeremy, excuse me, Jan, that you don't want to be waiting on the driver. Typically, they try to get their driver exchanges down so quickly that you're waiting on fuel. And they'll do such things as attaching surgical tubing like rubber bands to the belts to yank them out of the way when they're released. Anything they can do, any trick to try to speed up that driver change.
That's right, and that should happen in about 22 or 23 seconds. But having said that, if you feel like the belt hasn't clicked into its latch properly, the last thing you want to do is have to come back to pit lane to fix that problem. So if it takes a little bit longer, it takes a little longer.
Let's catch up with Rob Dyson moments ago as he went out for his first driving stint. Having a look in the horseshoe. Getting on the power. Ooh, a little too early.
Hey, Rob. There you go.
Oh, my.
Well, he never even... Well, there he drove over the paint.
Well, we saw it happen to Yannick Dalmas before. Now it happened to Rob Dyson, although he didn't spin all the way around. He learned where the limits were there in the horseshoe on cold tires. Continuing on his way, now shown in second place, the number 3 Ferrari has taken over the lead. We'll be back with more live coverage of the opening hours of the 36th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Back live in the office of Eliseo Salazar as he drives his Can-Am around Daytona International Speedway. Here's a look at the running order in the second hour of this 24-hour sports car racing classic. 4 classes in competition: Can-Am machines, GT 1, 2, and 3 categories. Let's look at 16 through 30, including our leaders in the GT3 category, the number 10 BMW with Bill Auberlin at the controls. As you can see, the GT1 Lister Storm, one of the fastest cars in that class, back in 25th spot after a couple of long pit stops. In fact, that car remains on pit road. The right-hand column, the number of laps behind the leaders any given car might be.
Yeah, we can update the Lister Storm story for you. They just went down on revs. It is not the throttle linkage this time, and they are baffled. They're still working on it.
Guys, you can see this, the Saline Mustang there at the bottom, the number 65 car. That car actually had problems in night practice 2 nights ago and didn't start the race. So we've had that listed. They never officially withdrew the car, but for anyone, for Mustang fans or Saline fans, that car actually did not make the start of the race.
The 2 cars labeled out never turned a lap in the race. Number 17 Ferrari is in. Marty Reed is there.
Yeah, guys, and it looks like Wayne Taylor is going to do a triple shift as they are going to again put on a set of scuffs. And they have pretty much been running the softer compound of the Pirelli. So, and it looks like tire wear has not been a factor when we talk about track temperatures being about 80 degrees. So, full load of fuel going on. This looks pretty routine so far.
There for what is a brand new team. That is a new team that Wayne Taylor and Dan Doyle put together, and very nicely done, very relaxed for a brand new team.
Well, we've been talking about the action that can take place on the racetrack when you least expect it. There is Terry Boutsen, who's already been off the track once. Moments ago, he got a bit of a scare as he approached one of the hairpin turns on the infield. Watch as he approaches at top speed, well, at a good clip. Notice the upper right-hand corner of your screen. A car has gone around and pretty much blocked the racing line, I'd say.
And we looked at that in slow motion. If you look at that in real time, that car comes up very quickly.
And the one thing you're really concerned about, if that car lets his foot off the brakes, he'll roll right into you.
Number 28, R&S Ford for John Field is in the pits, and the number 30 Ferrari as well, Bill Weber.
And this time, Jean-Pierre Moretti will climb out, and Arie Luyendyk, the defending Indy 500 champion, will climb into the car. Again, there is some right side body damage on the side of this car. It's a 4-tire change, putting on scuffed Yokohama tires here. Luyendyk getting strapped into the car, the fuel going in. The car looks in pretty good shape with the exception of that tape on the right-hand side. They were concerned about how it would handle under race conditions. So the fueling is done. Still working on the right side tires. They're going to try and fix some of that tape on the right-hand side. Moretti still strapping in Luyendyk. Still working on the shoulder straps, pulling back the air guns. They've got a big tape Band-Aid they're going to slap on the right-hand side.
And you guys, you can see they've got a little battery-powered drill out there, and they're drilling holes in that bodywork. Probably going to put some rivets in there, some pop rivets, very high-tech item, to help fasten that bodywork.
And they're taking some of the tape off because I believe it was covering some of the ducting that they need to get air to the back portion of the car.
And that is Kevin Doran down there who's doing the bulk of that work.
And he told me just a few minutes ago, a few laps before this car pitted, that they were still slightly concerned about the condition of the car, but the fact that it's a 24-hour race, they weren't overly worried about it. So now they go to work on that right-hand side.
And that's Kevin Doran, and they've made a little panel down there. They've made a little angled piece of metal, and they're drilling holes in it, and they're trying to shore up that piece of bodywork.
That's the pop rivet gun. He's trying to preload it with the rivet.
I think what happened is probably the rivet gun that Kevin was using jammed up, so they had to pull out the spare pop rivet gun.
And they have to be careful about the number of men they have over the wall. That's why you see a lot of tools being handed around.
If they put too many men, there's Moretti there at the top of our screen. If you put too many men over the wall, it's a 10-second penalty. The official will hold the car for an extra 10 seconds. Sometimes it's worth incurring that penalty. Better to take your time here and do this right and get it done. It's early in the race. There's plenty of time to make up this lost ground.
Now the engine fires, the car comes down off the jacks. My question is, why are Bill and Marty hanging around in the Ferrari pits? You guys looking for a discount or something?
Hey, if we could get one, we would, guys. But I got to tell you, the observation from down here is the number 3 Ferrari is getting great fuel mileage. They're still out there, and here comes the 20 car in, Bill.
And this would be John Paul Jr. climbing in, replacing Butch Leitzinger. Again, fuel going in. Leitzinger will help John Paul strap into the car. There is a fuel pickup problem on the 16 car, the team car to the 20. They are not getting all the fuel. And now they're having a bit of a problem fueling this car, some gasoline or some fuel leaking out, and now they're going to go to the left rear and change this tire. So now they're putting on a sticker tire on the left rear. So this is a puzzling pit stop. So the back-to-back pit stops for the 16 and the 20, the team cars for the Dyson team, have not been the flawless kind of stop you'd like to make. We'll check in with both those drivers in a minute.
Last year, one of the Dyson cars went out early. That driver team went over to help on the other cars. 7 drivers, including the man behind the wheel right now, John Paul Jr., went to victory lane. This year, there's a rule. You can only have 5 in a car. Arie Luyendyk needed a push, but he is back out.
Guys, going back to the fuel pickup problem on the 16 car, just imagine for every fuel stop you leave a gallon of fuel in that car. At the end of the race, that probably works out to 2 full fuel stops, 2 full pit stops during the race.
And you saw all those cars taking turn 1. He's going to come right out into the middle of some slower cars, including a battle for GT3 class position. So now Arie Luyendyk, in his first stint in the car in this race, is going to have to exercise lots of self-control. Meanwhile, people are getting way out of the way ahead of him.
They said, oh, it's Arie, I better get off the course.
Well, we had a good look at the right side of that car there, and it's pretty messed up.
The leader is the number 3 Ferrari, still in the hands of Yannick Dalmas. Pit stops in his future as well. We'll see if the driver change is coming up. Stand by for more live coverage of the early hours of the Rolex 24.
You travel around the Daytona International Speedway with 1997 Indy 500 champion Arie Luyendyk as the clock continues to tick on the Rolex 24. Luyendyk just taking over in the Momo Ferrari for Jean-Pierre Moretti, who is now standing here along the pits talking to his team manager Kevin Doran. And they are discussing the condition of the car and how it has been handling on the racetrack, and certainly discussing that right side damage. So Moretti, who did 2 stints, has now been replaced by Luyendyk in the 30 car, and he's talking it over with his crew right now, trying to see how they can make that car handle and perform throughout this 24-hour race. We'll lean in here. Jean-Pierre, first of all, what happened to the right side of your car?
I had a discussion with a German car.
Who won?
Who was?
How is the
it was a red and yellow.
How is the car?
Which one? His car?
Your car.
My car, it looks in one piece. So they did a repair.
And the racetrack conditions.
I don't know if I'm becoming older or every year is becoming worse here. I don't know, the traffic, the racetrack, everything is becoming... but probably it's because I'm becoming older, so I'm not used anymore to this traffic. And you have not to drive fast here. You have just to be lucky and not have discussion with other cars.
And they're hoping that their luck will turn to the good side. To Marty quickly.
Man, I'll tell you guys, the two Panos cars came in together. Now the 5 car is getting out, but the 99 came in, had to be pushed back into position. It's going to be a little bit longer on the pit stop. They both changed all 4 tires, all went to scuffs, and now there's a penalty being assessed to the 99. Now the 3 car will be coming down pit lane, and this may be the story of the race.
Loosen your belts. Use your speed limiter. Loosen your belts. Loosen your belts. Be ready for Bob. Remember to take the steering wheel off. Right here. Right here. Remember to take the steering wheel off. Bob will be getting in. Nice and easy. Right on the mark. Don't go past. Don't go past.
So an 86-second lead as he hit the pit lane. Yannick Dalmas will climb out. Bob Wallach will climb in. Now, the reason they went to the 430 compound, that's a little bit stiffer compound on the Goodyears, was they wanted to be able to do this stop without changing tires. But on all of a sudden, I see that they are changing tires on the rear. So I don't know what happened there, but we'll check with Jeff Brown. Maybe he'll tell us. They're having a little trouble getting the steering wheel back on. The belts are tight.
Okay, Bob. Reset your fuel. Reset your fuel. Push the button. Pit limiter off. Pit limiter off. Turn your switch off, Bob.
Oh, and he stalled the car. Now, this car has about 3 more laps out on the track than the second car.
Turn your pit speed off, Bob. Pit speed off. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have a copy?
While Bob Wallach makes his way back onto the racetrack, the second place car, number
nice
17.
And easy. You have warm tires. You have warm tires, so you should have good grip.
Taylor is across the start-finish line. He'll be entering turn 1 and closing very quickly on Wallach as he tries to get his car up to speed.
And the difference here is that Wayne Taylor has been in this car from the very beginning. He's very in tune with what the car is doing. He's completely up to speed. Wallach has got to get his car up to speed.
From 86 seconds to 8.5 seconds. The deficit comes down on the change rule. More traffic. The action continues all around Daytona International Speedway. We'll be back with more live in a moment. Welcome back with a beautiful aerial shot of Daytona International Speedway as the second hour of action continues at the Rolex 24. Flying high above Daytona International Speedway, the Bud 1 airship. To be with us right through the end of the race, this Bud's for you. Stay with ESPN2 following our coverage of this race this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Women's NCAA basketball, a doubleheader beginning with number 11 Arizona taking on Kansas, followed by number 12 Stanford against number 5 Texas Tech. Great hoops action coming up on the Deuce later today. Now, while we're in commercial break, we had this lead change. Remember, we said the number 17 car was closing quickly on Bob Wallach as he exited the pits with a small lead. And this is what happened coming down the backstretch and into the chicane. This was the pass.
And that's exactly 1 lap after Wallach came out of the pits into the International Horseshoe. Wayne Taylor under braking, ducks under him.
Now, it should be said that that was probably not a cutthroat pass. We're still in the very early stages of this race. Bob Wallach looked back and saw, well, he's got me. I'll let him go.
And you remember 2 years ago in the morning, only about 3 hours before the end of the race, when Wallach made contact in the chicane with another car. And I'm sure, you know, that is in the back of his mind.
Bill Weber is standing by with one of the most spectacular drivers of the early moments of this race. Bill?
And that would be James Weaver. First of all, we've established the track is very slick all around. That should improve as the sun sets. But let's talk about the fuel pickup problem in the 16 car. Tell us about it.
Yeah, ever since we've had the car, it's had a problem getting the last 2 gallons out. And we weren't quite sure. So every time the low pressure light, fuel light comes on, we stop. And it says 18 gallons on the dashboard.
and we put 18 gallons in, and the car holds 21. So there's 3 gallons in there. It's a question whether I'm brave enough with a reserve pump to try and get it out.
So when you get to that 18.2, the car's shutting off, and you have enough reserve fuel in a reserve tank to get you back to the road.
That's right. But I don't want to go any further than that. But we'll see. If we get brave, we might try and run another couple of laps later on.
Okay, well, we'll see how brave you are.
But I'm good at coasting.
Hey, good luck to you.
Thanks.
No, James Weaver is not good at coasting.
I wonder how good he is at pushing.
Well, it's interesting, though. You would think that they would, they've known they've had that problem. You really want to explore those limits in practice before you get into the race. You want to see, okay, how far can I go, and run it out of gas, run it out of fuel, because if you park it out on the track during practice, it doesn't matter.
But, sometimes things do change. These fuel pickups don't always work the same one day that they do another, and there's sometimes blockage. There's foam in the fuel cells in these things, and sometimes they can shift and block your actual pickup. So I would imagine they tried to stay on top of that.
There's car number 3 running in second place. Almost 2.5 seconds behind the race leader, number 17. Almost 41 seconds further back is the third place car, number 16.
49.7. P2 minus 4 seconds. Minus 4.
Well, maybe I'll just leave it up to Jeff Braun to tell us everything that's going on. Lap speed, distance behind the leader, in place.
Jeff Braun is like the best guy I've ever heard on the radio. I wish that guy was my engineer.
Down to Marty Reed.
Well, you heard him mention the time of 49 seconds. That's about 4 seconds a lap slower than Yannick Dalmas was running at his regular race pace. So Wallach obviously trying to work back up into it, take care of the gearbox. Remember, that was changed this morning, and we'll keep tabs on that time.
And Marty, I want you to tell Jeff how good he is on the radio. I mean, he just couldn't be any better for his drivers.
I had the opportunity to work with Jeff. I had an off weekend last year, so I spotted for him on his IRL team. I know exactly what you're talking about. He really knows how to tactically keep his driver's head in the race.
On board, one of the Porsches working the infield, headed for the high banks of the NASCAR Tri-Oval. Let's take you through the entire field with 22.5 hours of racing remaining. Mind-boggling, isn't it? And they'll be doing it flat out through the darkness, watching the sun set. And then the sun will rise in the east, and we'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to carry you through to the finish. Cars running 2, 3, and 4 laps behind between 21st and 30th place. GT3 leader Bill Auberland running in 23rd. Mostly GT2 and 3 cars as we move back into the 30s. But keep in mind, all of this could change. One long pit stop, and we expect several of those. The 07 car was pulled off onto the grass, but has now disappeared, maybe getting a tow back around. That may be the end of the day for Bryce Cobb and his co-drivers. In the morning, we'll find Can-Am cars. Well, we already see Can-Am cars back in the 60s. And there you have the rest of the field. The 74th and 75th cars did not start the race, and they were withdrawn immediately. Everyone else is out there plugging away. We'll take a break and return with more live coverage. About 90 minutes of coverage still to come from the Rolex 24. Stay with us. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, Bob Varsha along with Jeremy Dale and Jan Beekes. Bill Weber and Marty Reed are in the pits, and here's a battle that pretty much summarizes the kind of thing you get here at the Rolex 24. 2 classes of cars battling for position, 8th and 9th. The number 39 Ford-powered R&S Mark III right there, followed by that beautiful Porsche 911 GT1 car. Terry Boutsen still driving this car.
And these cars running very similar lap times within about a half a second. And, when you go through traffic as much as they do, the lap times can really vary, but they have been running very similar lap times.
You can hear the squeak of the turbocharger there as he shifts. This is a twin-turbo 3.2-liter power plant. And, of course, he is chasing a 5-liter normally aspirated machine. So big difference in power, but works out to be about the same on the racetrack, at least for this particular position.
He's got his little running lights on there at the front.
Oh, behind the wall, the Lister Storm, Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, they still have this power problem. They are down revs. They don't know what it is. They pulled it behind the wall to get a better look at it. And I go back to what happened in qualifying. Remember, they did not make it out that first session, and we talked about how you like to stay on a schedule. You get the car in the first day. The second day, you can work on all those little extra things, and you wonder sometimes that once you get off that schedule, is it just going to be one of these kind of weeks?
Well, they spent much of Thursday's night practice session behind the wall up on the jacks as well. It has been a very star-crossed weekend for that team from Great Britain. Meanwhile, the Porsche continues to plug away.
And I've got to say, for champion Porsche, this is probably their strongest effort yet in the 24-hour race. They did win the 12 Hours of Sebring a few years ago in the older style 911 Turbo, but this is definitely their strongest effort yet, and I'm sure they will be there at the end with this car.
Champion Porsche, of course, a large Porsche dealer in South Florida. Oh, what's that from the back of that?
And that's Hurley Haywood in the Matthews car there. And that was definitely smoking. I couldn't tell if it was coming out of the pipe or under the pipe.
It looked like it was coming out from under to me.
Which a lot of times means that possibly something is leaking onto the pipe. Occasionally you'll have like a gearbox leak or something, and it'll drip onto the exhaust system and make that kind of smoke. Obviously, if it comes from the pipe itself, that's an internal engine problem.
And we are on board here.
Hurley Haywood teamed with Derek Bell, two guys who have won this race. A total of 24-hour races here in Le Mans, a total of 16 times. 5 for Hurley here at Daytona, 3 for Bell.
Yeah, it's pretty much a very solid driver lineup when you've got 16 24-hour victories under your belt.
The number 98 Porsche in the pits, a GT2 car down to Bill.
Well, this is the leader in class. This is their second pit stop, and they're making a driver change. Robert Nern is getting out, and Franz Conrad is scheduled to get in. Larry Schumacher started this car. Nick Ham is the other driver, but Schumacher started this car. He could only go for 45 minutes. He had to come in. He shredded a right rear tire. They're running on Pirellis. They're very confident about their tires, but he did shred the right rear, forced him to pit about 45 minutes early. So they're being very careful about that. They're checking their tire wear and their tires at this point, fueling the car. Now they've dropped the car back down onto the racetrack, and soon Conrad will head back out. But that's something these guys need to watch, the combination of speed and tire wear.
That was the pole-sitting car in the GT2 category. Here's a look at how they stand in the GT3 category. A BMW was the pole-sitting car. BMW out front right now with Bill Armerlin from Redondo Beach, California at the controls. Dieter Quester has an identical car just behind him. And then the first of the Porsches. Stay with us. We are back live at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're watching the race-leading Ferrari, number 17, up on the high banks, over the tunnel bump. Now let's look back. About 7 seconds behind, we're looking for another bright red Ferrari. There he is up high. That is Bob Wallach with a car that sat on pole at record speed, an average of 129.2 miles an hour. Let's see if he has gained any ground on the race leader. They have to get down into turn 1 where the timing stripe is before we'll see if the gap has come down.
50.3 minus 8 to the leader, Wayne Taylor.
Yeah, Wallach must have been in some traffic there. Wayne Taylor ran a 1:47.3 on that last lap. So the official time is 10 seconds, but of course those two are timing at different places. That interval was timed in a different place. So officially he's 10 seconds behind Wayne Taylor, and he lost 3 seconds on that last lap.
Bob Wallach has raced in endurance sports cars, particularly Porsches, for so many years, has yet to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is the race, of course, he would most like to win, being a Frenchman.
Now, while we're talking about Bob Wallach and we're looking at Bob Wallach, he did a couple of quick calculations talking about the fuel with the Dyson cars. Based on what these guys have done so far, if they were to run green all the way to the end, which we know they won't do, they would make approximately 35 pit stops. The Dyson car, the 16 car that's having that fuel pickup problem, would make 41 pit stops.
Just the thought is mind-boggling.
Well, that is 6 extra pit stops, and it's going to be very difficult to win this race if you've got to do 6 extra pit stops.
And even if you do them very quickly, I mean, just think 6 minutes, 12 minutes, how much time are you giving away sitting still in the pits?
And every time they make the stop, they'll be saying, now, who was the guy who was supposed to check that fuel pickup?
This race is all about time. It is not laps. The race is over at 24 hours and no sooner. Once again, let's check times as they cross the infield timing stripe.
And I think this is going to be not his best lap. I mean, this is a bad place to catch traffic. This is top speed area through the tri-oval, and you can see he had to lift off quite a bit there.
49.2, 49.2, minus 10, minus 10.
Well, we remain 2 seconds apart from Jeff Braun's stopwatch in the pits to the timing line down in turn 1. We have 12 seconds on Wallach. Even though he ran a faster lap, he fell further behind.
But the reason is they are going so much faster at the start-finish line that the actual distance between the cars is exactly the same. In other words, 10 seconds at almost 200 miles an hour would equate to the shorter distance we're seeing here on our monitor when they're down in the infield.
And he has been in a lot of traffic here this last couple of laps. I mean, he's really in the thick of it here, and he really just has to pick his way through and be very careful. Great onboard shot there.
Up on the banking as the shadows are already beginning to grow long, thrown by the wall. The sun will set in that direction. And those shadows will sweep across the entire infield before we get a sunset. Then the darkness will come, but the race will go on. It is magic when these cars are rocketing around Daytona International Speedway in the darkness, headlights blaring, flame from the exhaust headers, brake discs glowing red as they step on the brakes, particularly coming into turn 1 and on the backside headed for the chicane. We'll take another break and then continue with our live coverage of the opening hours of the Rolex 24. There are the top 10 Can-Am and GT1 cars. We'll be right back.
The fuel-starved 16 car of the Dyson Racing team is back on pit road. Rob Dyson is climbing out. James Weaver, who did the first 2 stints, is getting back in. Dyson had to use the reserve fuel to get back to pit road. The car shut off on him. He did have to go to the reserve tank to get the car back here. He's very disappointed. Now Weaver's back in. He's got fuel and 4 sticker Goodyear tires. Limping slowly out of the pits. Want to make sure he didn't run into any other Can-Am traffic.
Now, Bill, over at the chicane, we've got a car sideways. He's off the racing line, but he was quite close to it. There is a local yellow. The driver is out of the car. That's the number 72 Chevy Corvette for Tim Banks, Todd Sprinkle, and Jim Criss.
And if the driver is out of the car, and you can see the damage to the rear wing there, and look at the left front suspension on that car. If the driver is out of that car, we are probably going full course yellow.
You see some skid marks on the ground. A moments ago, down in turn 1, we had another spin. Watch that white car coming into the apex. Losing traction, spinning around. It's car number 55, a GT1 Chevy Camaro from Mauro Casadei, Andrea Garbagni, Stefano Bucci, and Francesco Ciani. All Italian drivers in that car. And we have a full course caution. A full caution on the racetrack. So the safety car will be set out to get the field under control. We'll talk about what it means to the various competitors when we return live to Daytona. Back live at Daytona, and we have had a crash under caution in the tri-oval area on the front stretch. There you see car number 5. One of the Panos machines running 5th overall and leader in the GT1 class, Marty Reed.
A full course yellow had come out. The Panos lifted, and the 16 car with James Weaver did not see him lift. He was right into his rear end and heavy contact, and it looks like there's a damage on the nose of the 16. He's still limping around, but looks like the Panos is out of this one for now.
Oh, there is debris all over the racetrack at the entrance to the Tri-Oval. There you see the number 16 car.
Yeah, and look at the smoke from the back of that car. There's got to be some radiator damage on that car. Yeah, look at the front of that car. There's no way there's not radiator damage on that car.
Do we need to work on the car? Do we need to work on the car? Just going up.
Now they're going to have to replace.
Emotion's taking over a little bit out there as well.
Yellow, and then they suddenly go.
Let's see what we have of it. There, the contact has already taken place.
And I'll tell you guys, that Panos, I don't think that car is as bad as it looks. I think it's mainly bodywork damage, and if they can get it back, I'm sure they can get it back in. I think Weaver's car is in much worse shape.
That's Andy Wallace sitting in the car. The door is gone.
Now, the door's just up, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
The door's up.
That.
The rear body work is definitely gone, but they will have a body section they can put on there, and I don't think this car's out of the race.
And those doors stay up. They have little hydraulic lifters that hold the doors open, which is actually a pretty good idea.
There's the tail section.
I'm wondering how much the sun might have affected that. The sun is not very low in the sky, but it would be directly in front of the drivers in the Tri-Oval.
And you know, it's kind of ironic. These two guys were teammates last year. They drove together last year, and that is a little bit ironic. And they've closed the front straight. They're forcing the cars to all drive through the pits while they clean the front straight.
Now, nobody is allowed to pit during that. All of the teams are out there in the pits looking at their car.
Now, Weaver's in a bit of a different situation. Technically, the pits are closed, but his car is damaged. It's disabled. He's permitted to drive that car into his pit stall, stop the car, but they cannot work on it until the pits have been opened. So we will probably see him come down pit road, park that car, but they should not touch the car. This is the team car, the 20 car. That's John Paul Jr. Now, unless the pits have been opened, these guys shouldn't be working on this car.
Well, everyone is working up and down, so we must assume the pits must be open. Now, James Weaver has just reached the 60-mile-an-hour line at the pit entrance. Down to Marty Reed.
Eric Van der Poel will climb in of the 17 Ferrari. Wayne Taylor, after a triple stint, will climb out. They will change all 4 tires. And right behind him, another car pulls in, but further back in the field. Everything seems to be normal here, guys. Let's go to Bill Weather.
John Paul Jr. was here. He got fuel and 4 tires waiting on the 16. It's limping this way. They told the guys in the drivers' meeting this morning the first time by with a pace car, the pit road would be open. That was the case. That's why these teams were able to work on their cars. You can see the damage on the front of the 16. Heavy damage to the nose, to the radiator area. They've got a brand new nose right to our right. They're trying to bring it over the wall now. First, they're going to work on the radiator. They're going to go to work on the wing. They've also got to work on the headlights, because you will need those when it gets dark here. He has no right side headlamp.
Needs a radiator and a nose, and that's the splitter's okay.
That's Pat Smith, crew chief for this team.
Front top wishbone light, mate.
James Weaver asking, what does the wishbone look like? Asking, what does the suspension look like?
Looks fine.
The wishbones.
Do the toe ends look okay? The wheels off slightly to the left.
Now that's truly the eyeball alignment. James says, does the toe in look okay? And he eyeballs it and says, yeah, it looks okay to me. These guys have got bigger problems in alignment right now. They've got to fix that radiator. And boy, they have to bleed that. They've got to put they've got to change it. They've got to bleed it. It's going to take them a while.
Now, the original reason for the caution flag was on the other side of the racetrack in the chicane where a car had spun up against the wall. That car is just being hauled behind the wall, and as you can see, the racetrack is now clear. But it was while they were circulating, and they weren't behind the pace car yet. They were still moving at a pretty good clip. And as you heard Marty Reed describe, Andy Wallace and the Panos lifted to acknowledge the yellow flag at the start-finish line and was clouded from behind by James Weaver.
And James said on the radio that they suddenly just put out a full course caution. So he was not told on the radio because it had been full course for quite some time.
And I think what happened was James was in the pits when all that started, and he was getting up to speed, probably concentrating on getting those tires up to temperature and getting the car up to speed, and maybe just missed the fact that the lights, I'm sure, were on around the oval.
So the Dyson team sets to work, as will the Paynos crew further down the pit lane. We expect this kind of drama at the Rolex 24, and now we have it. We're back live at Daytona International Speedway, still under a full course caution. NASCAR's 50-year victory is a series of shows celebrating NASCAR's 50th anniversary. Hosted by Craig T. Nelson, Friday's episode, Southern Exposure, takes a behind-the-scenes look into how Winston Cup racing has become such a hot property around the world. NASCAR's 50-year victory, Friday at 8 p.m. on ESPN. And speaking of the stock car crowd, they'll be rolling in as soon as we get the sports cars out here at Daytona, and we'll be covering it for you on ESPN2. We'll have Winston Cup pole qualifying for the Daytona 500, Winston Cup, Busch Grand National, Daytona Dash and ARCA practices, and much more on ESPN and ESPN2. We'll be back live to Daytona in a moment. Beautiful view high above Daytona International Speedway. Lake Lloyd there. The dirt was dug out to build the high banks here at Daytona. Today's aerial shots are being provided by the Bud One airship, which reminds you that fresh beer tastes better. Coming up tonight on ESPN at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, the men's championship at the first Grand Slam tennis tournament of the season, the Australian Open. Number 6, Peter Korda versus 9 seed Marcelo Rios. Martina Hingis has won on the ladies' side. You'll find out who will win among the men tonight on ESPN at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Here at Daytona, following a huge crash between our front-running car in the GT1 class and the Can-Am machine of James Weaver, we are coming to the end of our yellow flag period, and we will be turning them loose shortly. Let's take a look at how they stand at this point. Leading the way, the number 17 Ferrari 333 SP, followed by a similar car, the pole-sitting machine, Bob Wallach at the controls. Then the number 20 Dyson Racing RNS Mark III Ford. And then the first of our GT1 cars, now that the 5 has been eliminated, its sister car, the number 99 Paynos, is in the number 4 spot overall, followed by the second place car in GT1, the number 38 Porsche 911. There you see the rest of the field as they line up behind the safety car. And suddenly the gaps are reduced. One of the cars hurt by all of the yellow flag action was that number 20 car running in third place. John Paul Jr. had been able to unlap himself, as Jeremy Dale mentioned earlier. He'd have been able to go all the way around and run with the front-running Can-Am machines. Down to Bill Weber.
Andy Wallace able to smile, but I know you're very disappointed. Explain what happened.
It's really quite a shame, because the number 5 Paynos was going very, very well. I was just really taking it very easily and was able to pull away from all the other GT cars without any problems. There was a potential yellow situation, and around half of the banking it was yellow, so I slow down behind everybody, go slowly. Then we come out of the bus stop chicane, all the green lights are on, so it's green. So is it yellow or is it green? So I go again, and the cars behind me started to go quick again, and the number 16 Dyson Can-Am car was also behind me going quickly because it was green. We come round on the start line again, they're all green except for the starter stand, which is yellow. So I see the starter stand waving yellow. You're not allowed to overtake. There's some slow cars in front of me. So I lift off to avoid overtaking them. Bam! The Can-Am cars are so low compared with a GT car, he doesn't see me lifting off. He can't. So he hit me very, very hard in the back, enough to spin the car around.
The car looks very bad, Andy. Can you repair it? Can you go back down?
I don't think it's that bad. It needs 4 new tyres because they're down to the canvas where it was spinning, and it needs a new tail. I think the gearbox is fine. There's a couple of frames on the back that need changing. I think we're probably reasonably lucky, but it's too bad because obviously there's a lot of time to catch up now, and the car was going so well. I mean, you have to believe me, I was not pushing the car hard at all, and it was way out there. So let's hope we can do something, but obviously there's a long way to go, and I suppose we could get back, but it's done it really, I think.
All right, we'll see what happens. Remember, they have a team car, and we're about to go back to green here at Daytona.
Andy Wallace has hit for the Triple Crown in endurance racing. He has won the 12 Hours of Sebring, 24 Hours of Le Mans, and the Rolex 24 here at Daytona in the past. Now the drivers, you see them settling back into the seat, maybe cinching down those belts just a little bit tighter as we get set to go green once again.
Well, boy, it was pretty clear from what Andy Wallace had to say there that there was some very solid confusion, and you can see how James Weaver just got caught out. I had mentioned the lights before, that surely if they were full course yellow, the lights would be yellow, and he said they were very clearly green, so you really have to feel bad for James Weaver.
Even worse, there were some yellow lights and some green ones, so the organizers, which of course this is a new organizing body for this event, have got to get their act together.
Green. Now the cars take the green flag down in turn 6. They have that green, and we are back underway. Looking for the leaders. They do not line up in field order. Ooh, we've got traffic. I believe those are the first and second place Ferraris.
And they do line up in field order when the yellow initially comes out, but as the shuffling of pit stop happens, that order changes. That's why the car that was in front of that was the number 4 Mustang. But here is our leader now having to run through all this traffic after the green comes out.
And while the leader is working through traffic, the car number 16, which was involved in the accident, James Weaver, has just left pit road. He was on pit road for 13 minutes and 31 seconds, and he lost 4 laps in the process. So he is the first one to affect repairs. We'll have to see what happens with the panels. Of course, he can make up that time.
Can-Am car on the left.
Not a particularly quick Can-Am car. I would add, as Dieter Quester goes by in the BMW M3, that is a GT3 car, as we all know. So that particular Can-Am car, not one of the quicker Can-Am cars.
That was a Buick-powered, I believe, 3.8 liters, and it just didn't hang with that BMW.
No, the V6 Can-Am cars have never really had, even though the weight is very low, the V6 cars have just never been able to match the V8 powered cars.
The International Horseshoe. There's the leader.
And you can see that's the Mustang that fell out very early with that gearbox change. So the Mustang is back on the racetrack again.
It's Eric Van de Poel from Belgium, a 2-time winner of the 12 Hours of Sebring at the wheel of a race-leading car. Bob Wallach, yes, remains in the second place car, the number 3 Royal Purple Ferrari.
Say that fast 4 times.
I was lucky to say it once. Headlights on. Now this is to let the cars ahead know, particularly the slower cars. A car with the headlights on, a flash in your mirror is probably more likely to catch your eye.
Yeah, that makes an enormous difference, actually, when you, even in daylight hours, to see the headlights flash in your mirrors makes a huge difference.
Sure that Bob Wallach has nightmares every time he goes through that bus stop chicane from last year, coming across a slower car which he thought he was familiar with and did not see him, and cost them the race.
It really did cost the Momo team the race that year. Of course, after that they did fix the car, and Max Pappas got in it and set some unbelievable, I mean, just put up these numbers that were incredible, but it wasn't enough.
As Max said at the beginning of the show, this is the race that made me as a racing driver. Now, there's the number 20 car, John Paul Jr., who was at the very tail end of the lead lap. 3 cars on the lead lap, the 17 and 3 Ferraris, and the number 20 Ford, Riley, and Scott.
And that 16 car that James Weaver had that incident in is the new Riley and Scott. This 20 car is the car they ran all last year.
I don't recall if the number 20 car pitted under caution, which may have accounted for him getting back on the lead lap.
There's Hurley Haywood in the 39 car, going another lap down. That 39 car presently running 7th overall, so they're in the thick of this.
The sunshine. A battle for position. The 38 car is the leader in the GT1 class. The number 99 car has been passed by that car for the lead. As we mentioned, going to green, the 99 car was the class leader. Incidentally, these 2 cars running 4th and 5th in the overall order right now as well. Oh, there's the number 10. I believe that's the GT3 leader. With attention from a GT car. Oh, a GT and a Can-Am. Wow. We got one of everything here.
And look at that Panos go by that Can-Am car.
Man, nose to tail has not worked out well for the Panos crew thus far. And the GT1 class leader just ahead, so those guys are trying to stay in contact.
Here's the chicane. This is what we are.
Scary place to try. Now, this will help the Panos because he can get quicker, hopefully, out of the chicane and be in draft. Look at the speed of that thing. 6-liter Roush Ford V8
against a 6-cylinder turbocharged Porsche.
And it was so difficult to equalize these cars that are so different. I mean, that Porsche is a mid-engine car. This Panos is a front-engine car.
Well, that's the discussion that's at the center of the whole controversy in sports car racing right now. Those of you who follow sports cars know that there was a schism last year. There are 2 bodies governing professional sports car racing now. The SECA-owned U.S. Road Racing Championship is sanctioning the event this year after 2 decades of sanctioning by IMSA, recently renamed Pro Sports Car. And one of the issues dividing the 2 bodies is that equivalency factor, whether the FIA turbocharged rules should govern or whether the normally aspirated car-based U.S.-born rules should govern sports car racing.
And actually, this Panos that would fall under the FIA rules has been handicapped a little bit at this event, so they don't want this car to win overall.
Let's run you down the leaderboard again. A group of 3 GT1 cars running 4th, 5th, and 6th. And there you see the time behind the leader. The 2 Ferraris up front, a little less than 6 seconds apart, and then a big gap back to the rest of the field. There's a minute, seconds, down to the 1,000. We're riding with the GT3 class leader, who was just in the mix of that GT1 and Can-Am tussle a moment ago on the high banks. The differential in speed is phenomenal here at Daytona. In fact, Alan McNish, one of the team drivers in the GT1 class leading car, said, "It surprised me when I came here to Daytona. Looking at it on videotape, watching the Daytona 500, it looked like it was much wider than it appears out the windshield of one of these flying Porsches."
Yeah, I can tell you that when you put 3 cars side by side up on the banking, it is an experience.
We'll take a break. Less than 22 hours to go here at the Rolex 24. It's so much fun to say that. Stay with us. We are back live at Daytona International Speedway, watching the blood red Ferrari. We have a battle going on, and smack in the middle of it is the 3rd place car in the Can-Am class. We've been put a lap down once again. The red car to the left of your screen is the race leader. And that second red car looming up from behind is Bob Wallach trying to chase down Eric Van der Poel. And look at this traffic.
You got to feel for these guys having to work their way through these cars. Let's not forget, all these other cars are racing each other. And they do the right thing. They get down low. They take that low line. The faster cars will pass up on the high line.
Up to top speed, top revs, 195 miles an hour plus, and then hard on the brakes for this entry into the chicane called the bus stop by the drivers. Much like the bus stop chicane of the Formula One course at Spa in Belgium, where in fact it is a bus stop.
I was waiting out there the other night to get back to the hotel. No one ever picked me up.
They never told you, huh?
No.
They stick that sign out there. They always think they're going to get the tourists.
You can see Wallach there trying to get around John Paul as they come up on the Viper, the one and only Viper in the field. And look at the top speed on the Ferraris. They come through the trioval.
And it must be so frustrating for John Paul, because if he could just get by these 2 red Ferraris, he would be on the lead lap. Like we've said, he is running 3rd, but he is a lap down.
48.8 minus 1. Nice and easy, Bob. Nice and easy.
I must say, Eric Van der Poel in traffic is being very polite. He's not taking any chances. You could see him there coming into turn 2. Made sure that that other driver could see him. Waited until he was out of the corner to pass. Same thing on in the chicane. The last time through, being very, very careful.
John Paul Jr. in the blue and white car to the left of your screen, trying to hang on. A former champion in sports car racing in America. A winner in an Indy car at Michigan Speedway years ago. Terrific shoe. Right now, he's watching the battle for the lead from a lap down.
You see, he has the handling. He will get up onto the banking first, but I would say that he will not be the first car by the time they get to the bus stop chicane, because the Ferrari is so much faster on the straightaway. Here he comes.
We should probably point out once again, being a lap down is nothing here in a 24-hour race. If he can stay within a lap or two through the night into tomorrow, you've got a great shot.
You know, these Ferraris have not yet proven their reliability in these 24-hour races. I mean, they have finished, but they have not been there at the end. They have not won, and that's what they've got to prove. Everyone knows they can go fast. Everyone knows they've got the top speed.
Race leader stuck behind traffic. It's the Mosler Raptor.
That car.
That thing is fast.
Vanderbilt decided at the last minute, hey, I can get a tow. Cars around that. Once again, that's not a Can-Am car, that yellow car. That is a full-body GT1 machine.
47.2, race leader Vanderpool directly ahead.
Yeah, nice.
Tell me something I don't know.
Right. Well, certainly a nice little ego boost there for the Mosler team as the Ferrari pulls up to get a draft on them.
Curious about Bob Wallach's situation. When he got in that car, he lost all kinds of ground. The other Ferrari, the race leading machine, got as much as 15 seconds behind at one point. And now he has come charging forward since the green flag. Well, looking much more racing.
The advantage, of course, was the yellow, but I think you're right. I think he really took his time to settle into that car and really get his rhythm going. Marty?
Guys, that's exactly it. I asked Jeff Brown, I said, you know, he's 4 seconds slower, and he said, hey, we just want to get slow up to speed. He said, we're not going to press anything. We know it's a long race. Remember, we've got a transmission that's our backup, our spare. If we lose that one, we then have to go to a sprint transmission. We don't have the reliability in that sprint transmission if we have to change it real early in this show. So he's now running. When he had clear traffic, he was at a 45, and that's exactly what Yannick Damas was running.
We have about 40 more minutes of live coverage coming your way. Stand by for more as the Rolex 24 continues to unfold here in Florida. Back live under a clear blue sky here in Central Florida. Bob Varsha along with Jan Beekes and Jeremy Dale with you for the Rolex 24. You're looking back from the number 38 GT1 Porsche, 5th overall, 2nd in class. Looking back at the number 30 Momo Ferrari with Ari Luyendyk, the two-time Indy 500 champion at the controls.
And Ari is doing just what he needs to here. He needs to make up some time, but he also needs to be conservative. The reason this car is behind is because the team owner had what did he say, a discussion with another car, and Ari doesn't want to have discussions with anybody. Look at the speed as he goes by the GT1 Porsche.
And this is not where you want to come up on traffic while you're passing someone into the chicane. Very hard under braking here. They go under the slower GT3 car. You can see Ari moving out to go around another car. And when you're racing with someone, that's exactly where you want to put a car in between the car you're running with.
It's called stripping another car in traffic, and he did a nice job of it there.
Look at him roar away. I like that word, discussion, making contact. Hey, Bob and Benny and Ned can use that here in Daytona in the weeks to come. On board with Ari.
And with the Ferrari, watch his helmet as he goes through the infield. It'll give you a feel for how stiffly sprung these cars are. This is the Ferrari that's on Yokohama tires. And that is a little bit of a thank you very much. I appreciate you moving over, because there will be another time he'll go by that car, and people do remember when you have courteous gestures back and forth.
And there may be another time when the gesture is a little bit different.
There's Ari from the outside of the lower right corner of your screen, heading for the west hairpin.
One of our onboard cameras is to his right. That's what gives you the view when we look out the front of the car.
It's his other right. His left, our right.
Correct.
The steering wheel on these Ferraris seems minute when you look at it from behind the driver. And to try to control a car at these speeds using a little steering wheel, this seems to me to be a bit of a challenge.
Well, don't forget, Bob, and Jan, you know about this, of course, racing on ovals, you often have a very slow ratio on the steering rack, so you can position the car very accurately. But in road racing, you need a much quicker steering ratio. So that makes it even trickier out on the oval, because you've got that quick steering box in there that is designed for the road course part of this racetrack. Now, that is maybe not a friendly way. You see, and within a lap, you got the full range of emotions.
Past the Viper. 81 car running in 33rd place overall. The Ferrari just sings on past.
And nice, slow, deliberate shifts. Not something like you'd see in a sprint race where you pump down. It's very deliberate down through each gear, because we know that the transmissions, and not only the Can-Am cars, but in just about everything here, can be a problem.
Well, you know, driving a car in an endurance race is a real art, and it's no coincidence that guys like Derek Bell and Hurley Haywood have won so many 24-hour races, because they're just so good at endurance driving.
The leader has drawn away. Eric Van de Poel, with clear track, has gotten more aggressive. He is now 6 seconds ahead of the second place car of Bob Wallach. And then John Paul Jr. and then the first of the GT1 cars, the number 99 Panos. We'll be back to Florida. Welcome back live to Daytona International Raceway, where the Rolex 24 continues. Tomorrow on ABC Sports, tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the AFC-NFC Pro Bowl, live from Honolulu, Hawaii. The NFC looks for revenge after the AFC took their lunch away at the Super Bowl. You'll see it on ABC Sports tomorrow, live at 6 p.m. Eastern. Talking about football stars, here is a star, here is a legend in endurance sports car racing, the most decorated endurance driver of all time, Hurley Haywood from Jacksonville, Florida, driving a Ford-powered Can-Am car, very much like the Dyson racing machine, a pushrod Ford engine, and a Riley and Scott chassis from Indianapolis. 5 victories in this 24-hour race. 5 wins in this race that so many legions of other drivers would kill to get 1 win in.
And 3 at Le Mans.
And 3 at Le Mans.
Not too shabby.
And a couple at the 12 Hours of Sebring as well, which ranks right up there with Daytona and Le Mans. Hurley has run enough laps in this race around this speedway to complete 84 Daytona 500s. That is a lot of time in the cockpit.
And that's that's a bizarre stat. Like, who even thought of that stat? That's a wild stat.
Hey, we're paid to do this. 50,000 laps equivalent.
50,000?
Check the math.
50,000 sounds like a lot.
11,000, I beg your pardon. 11,000 miles. Hey, it's a lot. What can I tell you?
50,000 miles, I'll bet.
50,000 miles, 11,000 laps?
That sounds better.
I got to hire somebody who knows how to use a calculator. Whoa, Porsche. Street-based Porsche. Was that the 993 he just went around?
No, that was the 968 turbo car. That is the only turbo car running in GTS3. It's a 4-cylinder turbo car.
Now look at that low sun beginning to come down. This is the part of the track where James Weaver came up behind the Panos, didn't notice the lift from Andy Wallace, and he clouded the car from behind. That led to our one and only full course caution thus far in this race. But as the saying goes, they ain't over yet. Looking across the dash as the shadows play across, you see that great big red button, which I'm guessing is either fire extinguisher or the emergency kill switch.
Actually, I think it's the brake bias adjuster. It just happens to be red. It's so you would actually turn it to one direction or the other if you want more braking to the front wheels or to the rear.
Right. The fire is actually up to the left. It's a little T-handle, and it's actually marked fire. We can't see it here, but we've got the sun behind us. You can see it.
That's why I'm up here. Look at the damage on that car. Marty Reed is there.
Yeah, this is Katsunori Iketani in the 05, and they are well back. He had just come in a few laps ago and had a cracked windshield. They had a stone kick up, but the sheer force of the wind at speed literally collapsed the windscreen right in on him. They're going to be taking this one out, putting a new one in, and boy, it's a mess. And luckily, he did not get cut. He is fine. He's very calm considering what would happen. I would imagine it would get all of our attention very quickly.
That Porsche 911 fielded by Prova Motorsport, a Toronto, Canada-based builder of high-performance Porsches, originally founded in Japan with a Japanese driving team. On board with the GT3 class-leading BMW, Boris Said now driving, taking time out from his work in the Craftsman Truck Series on the NASCAR circuit for Irvin Simo Racing. Mark and Brian Simo, founders of the No Fear fashion company, and Ernie Irvin, co-owners of that truck that Boris Said drives. Bill Weber.
And Tom Milner owns the BMW that he's driving, the 10 and the 6, running very well, Tom.
Yes, everything seems to be fine right now. We have a little bit of too much rear tire wear, so we are trying to be careful not to slide the car around. But at this moment, we're pretty happy. 7 car seems to be okay, too.
But did it have a problem? It's fallen back quite a ways.
Yes, I think we have some problem with the Vanos system, the computer-controlled cam timing, which it seems to be stuck in one position, so that makes the engine not quite as powerful, but it also gets better gas mileage. So we can do about another 15 laps, and I think it'll work itself out.
Okay, looking for the repeat.
I hope so.
Okay, and the 6 car should be in just a handful of laps.
Now that's a very interesting engineering question, is that if you detune your car and you get better fuel economy, after the distance of 24 hours, which car is going to be ahead? Certainly the faster cars are ahead right now. If it provides better reliability and better fuel economy, they might learn something by accident.
Well, I thought that number was pretty staggering. He said 15 laps. That is a staggering number. So that it must be stuck in the not a lot of top end power, but more torque. So maybe the car's okay in the infield, but probably not nearly as good out on the bank.
Boris Said runs in 18th position overall. I missed out on the brake balance control. I'm not even going to try that one. We'll take a break and return with more live coverage as we continue. The seconds tick away at the Rolex 24. Lots of seconds still to come. Back live at Daytona at the Rolex 24, you ride along with Austrian veteran Dieter Quester. There you see him in second place behind his teammate Boris Said, who leads the way in the pole-winning car in the GT3 category. Moments ago, however, this was Dieter Quester headed for turn 1.
And maybe he was trying a little bit too hard. Boy, that is strange. You didn't hear the rear wheels lock up or anything. It wasn't like a mismatched downshift. And I think he had to make a quick decision there not to get into that wall.
Whoops, he throws the belts off, hits our onboard camera. Bill Weber is there.
And Dieter Quester comes down pit road. He's trying to make the stop here. Mark Simo will get into the car, directs him in. You can see the damage to the front of the car. Belts already off, window net up. Quester climbs out. Simo, who is much taller, will slide into that seat and have to make the adjustments. He'll get some help with the belt. They'll make a 4-tire change. They're running on Yokohama tires. They're putting on tires that have been scuffed for 1 or 2 laps. But the big question is the damage to the front of this car. We just talked to Tom Milner, and he told us how well they were running and how well things were going. But obviously that's not the case at this point. The 10 car is the class leader, but they have radiator damage, fluid leaking out beneath the front of the car. Milner gesturing from behind pit wall. Boy, things here, it's a long race, but your luck and your situation could change here in a hurry. And now Simo is going to get out of the car, and they're going to have to assess the damage. So what was going to be a very short stop is now going to be a very long one, guys.
And Bill, when you look at the front of the car, you could see the ducts that were on the right-hand side on our screen as we look, and they appear to be missing here on the left-hand side. and those are the brake cooling ducts that they're looking up. They're trying to find them. They've been jammed up into this suspension area, and that is going to be a major problem. They're going to have to fix that air ducting before they can send this car back out. So that was a lot of damage for a pretty, what looked like, there it is.
There it is, yeah, pop back out. That is a great work by our cameraman there to look at the front of that car. And I'm really surprised as much damage, that we're seeing as much damage on this car.
They have lost second place, and they're in danger of losing third. Well, if they're going to go behind the wall for work, they're going to lose all kinds of positions.
Well, hopefully we can talk with Dieter and find out exactly what happened there. A surprising amount of damage.
And Jeremy, I agree with you. That's an amazing amount of damage for just going out into the dirt. But I guess that splitter, like we call it, caught the moist dirt and just tore that thing up.
On board with Kurt Wagner, what is now the second place car in GT3, the number 41 Porsche, taking over from Dieter Quester after that off-track excursion that caused so much front-end damage. Meanwhile, the battle up front between Eric Van der Poel and Bob Wallach in a pair of Ferraris has closed down again. It is under 2 seconds from first to second place in the overall. Here's Wallach. Apparently traffic has slowed the race leader, Eric Van der Poel, giving the Frenchman Wallach a shot at him.
Well, you know, this will just ebb and flow all night throughout the race. They will be in the traffic, they'll be out of the traffic, and we'll see these gaps just moving back and forth constantly.
We're getting into the last 20 minutes or so of our live coverage. Before we leave you, we'll watch the race while you do other things, and we'll have all the highlights for you when we join you tomorrow again at 7 a.m. We are back live high above Daytona International Speedway as the 40th annual Speed Weeks unfolds this week and in the weeks to come. ESPN will be all over it. The Budweiser blimp and its eye in the sky camera, proud to provide you with live shots from 1,000 feet above Daytona International Speedway. And we thank the crew on Bud 1. The leader is in the pits. Eric Van der Poel of Belgium brings his Ferrari in for service. Marty Reed awaits him.
The guys are geared up. This is the very last pit, right before pit out. Eric Van der Poel makes the stop. He will stay in the car. Now, what's going to be interesting, remember, the 3 Ferrari has been getting better fuel mileage. So we want to see how many more laps they decide to stay out before they make their change. 4 stickered Pirellis are going to go on this car and a full load of fuel, and it looks like everything else is A-OK with the race leader. Eric taking a cool drink of water and making no gestures to anyone, like no adjustments needed, no complaints. Everyone else finishing up the workload, and right now it looks like this has been a very comfortable routine stop for the race leader.
It has been a very quick stop. As a matter of fact, that was 42.68 seconds, which sounds long when you're talking about sprint configuration, but pretty fast today. Bill?
And back here behind the pit wall with Dieter Quester, obviously some problems out there. What happened on the track?
I really don't know what happened. I mean, I know it was in the grass. WSC car was on the left side. I was on the right side. I was just turning in on the throttle, and in the same moment he was inside, and I have to brake very hard, and I spun. I touched nowhere, only the grass damaged the car really hard.
How bad is the damage? You were just underneath the car.
I think the radiator is broken, and I don't know what else, maybe a support for the radiator, but I'm very, very unhappy about this problem.
And you can certainly tell that, and the work continues back here.
Meanwhile, another car that suffered damage, including a radiator, the number 16. James Weaver piled into the back of one of the Panos GT1 cars, and that is Weaver behind the wheel as he heads back out on sticker tires. Now, James Weaver has suffered another of the potential problems for a driver, and that is being involved in a, for lack of a better phrase, a traumatic situation like clobbering another car. I'm sure he feels terrible about it, but now once again he has to reset himself and gets back into the hunt. Right now, the 16 car shown in 11th place, 5 or 6 laps down. Now, here is Dieter Quester in that spin a few moments ago.
Now, there's the Can-Am car. He called it a WSC car, but it's, you know, unless there's a car in that shot that we can't see that's behind him, you know, he talked about another car, but that car was nowhere near him and really did not affect what he was doing.
My impression of what he was saying was a car suddenly appeared on my left that I wasn't expecting. Now there's the GT1 class leader, Eric Bernard, the number 99 Penos. The second place car in class is also in. There's the Porsche.
Be a nice battle. Marty?
Well, on the 99, they are putting on 4 new scuffed tires on that vehicle, full load. Everyone, no driver change to report, and this is a very quick stop, guys. They are down and ready to go.
As a matter of fact, Marty, that was, what, 28.28 seconds. That was a smoker of a pit stop.
Well, keep in mind, only 80 liters of fuel on the FIA spec cars. So, whereas the Porsches will be carrying 100 liters of fuel if they're not in FIA spec, and of course the Can-Am cars carrying 100 liters of fuel. So that's a bulk of that time is because that car has a smaller fuel tank.
Brief problem there in the champion Porsche pits for the 38 car, back on its way. I believe Ralph Kellners is behind the controls of that car. Kellners was an interesting story in last year's race. Wound up winning the GT2 category, I believe it was, in a car that sat outside the front gate. It was delivered to the wrong location, sat outside the gates here at Daytona. They brought it in, got it in the field in second round qualifying, then went all the way to a class victory. Now the number 30 Ferrari is in. Harry Lyondike at the controls, down to Bill.
And he will give up those controls to Mero Baldi. It'll be a 4-tire change, 4 sticker tires for the 30 Ferrari. Remember, they still have that right side damage, but it's all taped up, and it's taped much better this time, so it appears to be holding. Baldi has to put in an insert so he'll fit in the seat. Then Lyondike will help strap him in. Earlier, we saw that the 16 bunch was having trouble getting Rob Dyson in the car. Some of these helmets, the drivers literally cannot see down in their lap to snap that belt tight, so that's why it takes some of these driver changes a little bit longer. But they've made the 4-tire change here, cleaning out the grill. Lyondike will step out. They're done with the fuel. Now they're just simply waiting. Another tug on the belt by Baldi. The car refires, and the 30 Momo Ferrari takes off. Marty Reed.
And we're down at the number 3 Ferrari.
Loosen your belts. Loosen your belts.
That's
nice and easy, right on the sign. Look for Max. He's waving. Look for Max. Here, both of us. Right on the sign. Don't pass the sign. Right here. Loosen your belts. Loosen your belts. Okay, good job. Right on the sign. Stop, stop, stop.
Now this is only going to be fuel and a driver change. Max Pappas will be climbing in for the first time. 57 seconds was the lead that they had, and they got 3 extra laps again by my count, guys. So Bob Wallach's seat pad comes out. Long-legged Max Pappas is strapping in. And the 17 car now in NASCAR 3. Oh, I just noticed a little damage on the right rear section of the car. A hole punctured up through. In fact, the crew is looking at it right here on the right rear. And it doesn't look good. Here he comes down the front stretch, the 17. They're having trouble with the belts. This is very costly. This team had the advantage. The wheel is finally getting put back on.
Limiter off, Max. Hit speed off. Reset your fuel. Reset your fuel. Thank you. Thank you.
The 17 car has gone by here. He is now back underway.
You have warm tires. You have warm tires. We did not put new tires, so you have grip. You can go.
Now, both those cars that we saw making pit stops and driver changes, they both did it in 45 seconds with a driver change. So, again, it's the fuel that's the determining factor.
Something else interesting there, Eric Vanderpool doing the shimmy, shimmy, shake coming down the front straightaway there. He was on it, and I'll bet the reason was he knew he had a shot to put that car back in the lead if he hurried.
Absolutely. If you can find a clean way to carve your way through traffic like that, and you're not going to jeopardize the car, then go ahead and do it. Don't lift off the throttle.
Are these teams racing like there is 24 hours in this event? This is the kind of thing we'll see all night long and into tomorrow when we return with 6.5 hours of coverage. Stay with us. Our ESPN2 coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is being brought to you by Porsche, who wish to remind you there is no substitute. And by Yokohama Tire Corporation. Turn on technology with Yokohama Tires. On board with a Porsche down in the west hairpin. This is car number 96. Working traffic. I'm amazed at how much traffic we're still seeing. Cars all seem to clump together around the track.
There are hardly any cars out of this race at this point. I mean, so far, you know, pretty much every car is running, and that goes back to what we were talking about in the opening of the show. It is a quality field, and the cars are well-prepared cars.
96 winning in 33rd spot in the GT3 category. 33rd overall, I should say. It's a GT3 class car. And running about 11 laps off the lead at this point.
Speaking of the leader, Eric Van der Poel working his way through traffic. And boy, I am very impressed with this team, a new team, doing just a superlative job.
Whoops. Engine compartment fire on the front stretch in the tri-oval. We have an oil flag. Something must have burst at the back of that car. Lots of smoke in the tri-oval.
That's that Kyler chassis, named after a wild boar, and
it's now on fire.
It's a fire.
Name it after a barbecue.
Yeah, I think I want to give
barbecue.
There you go.
Boar.
There you go. That's all it needs. Oh, it's not all it needs.
The oil flag is out. You can see that long stream of oil looking back up the racetrack. It goes all the way through the tri-oval. In fact, it goes almost all the way down to NASCAR Turn 4. So there is a quart or two out there on the racetrack.
Wait, it doesn't want to go out. Whatever's on fire back there, it does not want to go out.
And so another dream goes up in smoke, the dream of running the entire 24 hours of this Rolex 24.
It looks like most of that fire was actually in the exhaust pipes there.
Board with the number 41, chasing the number 10 machine in the GT3 class. We have our second full course caution as the fire continues to burn on that car. Full course caution. The pits will be closed. Cars will have to, if they're in the pit lane, committed to the pits, they have to go back out. If you want to pit because of damage to your car, you can, but the car cannot be touched. Down to Marty Reed.
Yeah, we're down here with Chris Wilson, and not the way you want to be talking to me, I know.
Definitely not. We had some problems early on with little things, oil cooler and stuff like that. We thought we had that all cured, put a header on it, and now this. It just, coming down the front straightaway, had one of the Dyson cars behind me, and motor just went. Big poof. As you saw, there was fire. Oh, well, I guess we're out.
Well, you mentioned Rob Dyson. That's where we find Bill Weber. Bill?
Talking with Rob Dyson about his cars here today. Obviously, let's talk about the 16 first. What's the situation on it?
Well, the car's been repaired and it's running fine. It's unfortunate. Andy and James are old friends. In fact, Andy got on the radio a little bit later on. He came by our pit area and got on the radio to talk to James. And what it was is simply that James was getting a tow off of Andy. And Andy saw the yellow, lifted a little, checked up a little, and James had nowhere to go. He was following him so close, didn't see it, and hammered right into him. And it's really unfortunate because it hurt both cars, but it seemed to hurt the Panos more because that car went into the fence, and unfortunately, but our car, we were able to replace the radiator, a couple little pieces of body work, and it's running fine now. As far as the 20 car's doing great. I mean, they're running like a freight train, as I knew that they would. And I'm cautiously optimistic for the rest of the race.
Okay, it was a 20 car that got him to victory lane 1 year ago.
Thanks, Bill. Right now, that 20 car runs in third place overall, a lap down. The number 16 is in 11th place, 4 laps off the lead. We'll be back. Back at Daytona International Speedway. Time is running out in our first 3 hours of coverage, but we will be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time for 6.5 hours of live coverage as we take you through the final 25% of this race to the checkered flag and beyond to meet the winners. So be sure to join us at 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. We'll have all the highlights of the action in the hours to come, including the all-important nighttime running. Here's how we're running right now under our second full course caution of the day. Coming up on the 21-hour mark, Eric Van de Poel out front for Ferrari. Mad Max Pappas in second place. As we move down through the field, check the order. It will change many, many times during the hours to come. Sun sinking low, glinting off of Lake Lloyd. Great battles going on in all four of the classes. Can-Am, GT 1, 2, and 3. Great track runner once said, if you want to win a gold medal, just run 100 meters. But if you want an experience, you run the marathon. And so it is in auto racing. If you want the experience of a lifetime, you compete in a 24-hour endurance sports car race. See GT1 cars running back in the 60s. But we'll say again, this could all change by when we see you next at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Let's get down to Marty Reed for his thoughts on what is yet to come.
The number 3 Ferrari is what's standing out in my mind right now. This car has proven every pit stop right now, they can go 3 laps longer than anybody else in this field. Now, right now, they're running in second place. You say, well, so what? What is the significance of that? Well, when it comes time for the cars to be played at the end, and you are in this 1-lap situation or less, if they happen to be on the lead lap, which is what we're all hoping for, well, then that fuel mileage is going to play into that number 3 car's hand. But will the transmission hold out? That's why we're here. Bill Weber?
Well, here is the fuel that you put into the teams. Back here, this is the BMW pit. They've got all kinds of food. Back in here, we've got water, sandwiches, energy drinks. And up here, we've got soft drinks. That's what you put in your body for fuel. But what you can't find back here is the desire. And during the darkness hours, it is masked. But it comes up the same time the sun does. And it's the guys that work hard and want it more that will be leading when we come back to you in the morning.
The 99 Panos car right now, we talk about fuel in GT1, that's the thing we have to keep an eye on here. They want a lot of yellows. They're probably, in fact, they are geared up for a stop here. They'll take advantage of every yellow they can because they do not get the fuel mileage that the 01 Porsche gets. And that 01, if it can get all those legs and keep it out there, it makes it tougher for the 99.
I remember when we left here 1 year ago, it was the 16 car we all thought might have a real good shot at going to victory lane. But in the middle of the night, it disappointed the Dyson team. The 20 car won. Now, already, the 16 car has had problems. Can the 20 make a repeat performance here at Daytona? We'll see you in the morning.
7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, to be precise, when we join you again. Can-Am leads. The GT1 leader is 4th. The GT2 leader runs 17th. The GT3 leader has passed the GT2 leader and runs 16th. Be sure to join us tomorrow for 6 hours of coverage to the checkered flag. Final thoughts, Jeremy Dale?
Well, Bob, I think the quality of this field speaks for itself. So many cars still running and running strong. And, of course, those Ferraris are out front, and they're going fast, but don't count out the Ford-powered cars.
Again, we're seeing the tortoise and the hare. I think the hare has the advantage, but if there's problems during the night, then the tortoise might take the advantage.
If memory serves, a year ago, our first round coverage ended with a yellow flag, and that's the situation we find ourselves in right now. You just had a glimpse of Derek Bell, who has won this race 3 times. He is now behind the wheel. There will be driver changes. There will be tires going down. There will be fires. There will be contact. We'll have all the action for you tomorrow morning. Coming up next here on ESPN2, Women's Hoops, as number 11 Arizona visits Kansas. And look who is coming out from behind the wall to get back in. The Lister Storm with Jaguar power and sponsorship from a British soccer team, Newcastle United. That will send up a cheer back in jolly old. The sun is drawing low to the western horizon in Daytona Beach, Florida, but the action will continue through the night and through the day tomorrow to the checkered flag at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, the 1st of February. Join us tomorrow at at 7 a.m. I'm Bob Barsha. For Jan and Jeremy, for Bill and Marty, so long for now from Daytona. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.